Chapter 652. On the mirror, the main hall of the sacrificial temple was empty. They waited in the virtual sky world for a year. The trapped cultivators in the clouds finally killed all the ghost cultivators and left. They waited for more than half a month, but they didn't come back. Shouldn't we also leave? Mo Tiange asked the others for their opinion. Everyone looked at each other. In the end, Nie Wushang said, "I think we can go." Jing Xingji stretched his waist. "Let's go. It's not convenient to practice swordsmanship here." In fact, as soon as he started practicing, Mo Tiange rushed out and ordered him not to destroy the bamboo forest. But how big was this place? As a nascent soul sword cultivator, how could he control his swordsmanship within a few miles? That being the case, he didn't envy this so-called space crack at all. He wasn't a Dharma cultivator who could make a realm breakthrough by meditating. Yang Qingji also nodded. 4 devil cultivators. The rich spiritual aura here was nothing to be envious of. He couldn't wait to leave. Finally, Qingji said, "They've been gone for so long, they probably won't come back." Mo Tiange made a decision. "Okay, let's clean up and go out." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt all the spiritual aura in her body flow and rush outside. Everyone was stunned. Jing Xingji, who was twisting his waist halfway, stopped. "What's going on?" Mo Tiange stood up and pushed the door open. She saw flashing spiritual light outside, and countless spiritual aura visible to the naked eye rushing to one place. Xiaofan. She was surprised. Feifei squatted on Stone's shoulder. Stone sat in front of Xiaofan's nest by the stream and stared at it. When it saw them coming out, Feifei scratched its golden fur and said faintly, "It actually beat me to it." It was very resentful. It was the first spiritual beast to absorb the divine beast's breath, and it had already taken human form. How could it let Xiaofan beat it to it? It only had Black Tortoise's breath for a year. Mo Tiange said, "Who told you to be so lazy? Even Xiaohua is more diligent than you." "I'm not lazy anymore." After he was ordered to enter closed-door meditation, he was already very diligent, but things like realm breakthroughs were hard to say. Qingji said, "Xiaofan is nearly 1,000 years old. It's always been diligent in its cultivation, and has accumulated a lot of experience. Now that it obtained Black Tortoise's breath, it broke through its shackles in one fell swoop. It's not strange at all." Among the few spirit beasts, Lil Fan was the one who had accumulated the most. Moreover, it was well-behaved and never slacked off in its cultivation. Its advancement was a matter of course. After watching for a while, Mo Tiange raised her voice and said, "Xiaofeng?" In midair, Xiaofeng transformed into her human form. Her red clothes fluttered as she landed. "Master, madam, I'll leave this place to you." Mo Tiange pointed at Xiaofan. Xiaofeng nodded. "I understand. Let's go," Mo Tiange said. Xiaofan's realm breakthrough isn't something that can be done in just 1 or 2 days. Jing Xingji sighed. "Another one." Mo Tiange ignored him and summoned the bead between her eyebrows. She then cast an incantation to send them out of the virtual sky world. The Black Tortoise sacrificial temple was quiet and devoid of any human activity. The 5 of them cautiously made sure that no one was around before coming out of the shrine. When they came out of the sacrificial temple, there was only a little dead aura around them. It was obvious that the ghost cultivators had all been killed. Going back along the original path, they found that the road was incredibly clean. The black water in the karst cave had decreased a lot, and the power of the condensed people was greatly reduced. Mo Tiange guessed that the black water also existed by relying on the dead aura produced by the ghost cultivators. Now that the ghost cultivators had been slaughtered, and the source of the dead aura was gone, presumably the black water would also disappear slowly. After walking through the karst cave, they found that the cracked canyon was empty, and only left with the dead aura. Looking down from above, they could vaguely see that the canyon was full of broken walls, tiles, and piles of bones. Presumably, this used to be a human settlement, but it suddenly encountered a shocking change, and everyone suffered a disaster. That was why it became a world of ghost cultivators. After passing the canyon and crossing the underground river, they drilled out of the cave and found that the atmosphere in Carefree Valley had changed greatly. The remaining spiritual aura fluctuated violently. What's going on? Jing Xingji frowned. Fighting alone shouldn't have such a big impact, right? Mo Tiange spread her divine sense and said a moment later, sure enough, Devil Monarch Moon Shadow and the others have long prepared a trap, waiting for them to step into it. What trap? A killing formation that's even more dangerous than the great mountain protecting formation of a big cultivation group. It's probably the work of 5 Elements Valley, Mo Tiange said. Let's go quickly. With such a great formation, Carefree Valley is full of danger. If we get dragged into it again, it'll be troublesome. Everyone understood that the 2 forces in Yunzhong were fighting, so they'd better leave as soon as possible. Following Mo Tiange, they took many turns, bypassed the dangerous formation, and quickly left Carefree Valley. There was no one outside Carefree Valley. It was no longer as grand as before. Without any delay, they left Jialing Mountain Range and went to the nearest cultivator town to borrow a transporting formation. When they arrived at a small town not far from Jialing Mountain Range, they found that there were many high-level cultivators coming and going in the town. Among them, there was no lack of nascent soul cultivators, while the low-level cultivators were trembling with fear and acting cautiously. Yang Qingji volunteered to scout for information. After a while he came back and said, Yunzhong is in chaos. Mo Tiange hastily asked, what's the situation? Yang Qingji said, sure enough, Devil Monarch Yuing set up a trap in Carefree Valley. More than 50 nascent soul cultivators were killed or injured, and only 20 managed to escape, including Master Taoist Yuan Mu of Juyin Sect. In the past year, Yu Mountain Academy, Danxia Sect, and 5 Elements Valley put pressure on Juyin Sect. Nearly 10 nascent soul cultivators from Juyin Sect went missing, and the people of Juyin Sect were in chaos. Fortunately, they had a solid foundation and Master Taoist Iron Mask oversaw the situation, so they managed to hold on. As soon as Master Taoist Yuan Mu escaped and returned to Juyin Sect, he declared war on the 3 great sections. Ah, Nie Wushang said in surprise. Although Juyin Sect is powerful, how can they fight against the 3 great sects? Are their losses serious? It doesn't seem serious. Juyin Sect didn't announce how many casualties they suffered. Juyin Sect naturally wouldn't announce this kind of information. However, judging from their confident looks, their losses shouldn't be big. Qingxi said slowly. The nascent soul cultivators who escaped from Carefree Valley all chose to stand on Juyin Sect's side. The 3 great sects schemed against them, so how could they tolerate this? In this way, both sides can stand on equal footing. Exactly. Yang Qingji nodded. The Devil Path and the Buddhist Path aren't calm either. Night Owl City also declared war on Moon Shadow City. Venerable Xuxiang and Devil Monarch Knight Frost joined hands to attack Moon Shadow City. There's also old Donkey Ma. In the end, he sighed. Most of the forces in Yunzhong are involved. Presumably, it won't be peaceful for at least several decades. What about Lingyan? Mo Tiange asked. Do you have any news about him? He's fine, Yang Qingji said faintly. It can be said that he profited from a disaster and regained Master Taoist Yuan Mu's trust. Mo Tiange nodded. She felt relieved if that was the case. The 5 of them were silent for a while. In the end, Mo Tiange said, Fellow Taoist Yang, what do you plan to do next? Yang Qingji said without hesitation, I don't want to get involved in Yunzhong's affairs, but if you have any news about the sacrificial temple, please allow me to go with you. Mo Tiange nodded. After fighting side by side this time, Yang Qingji proved his trustworthiness with his actions. They had no reason to refuse such a helper. Then, shall we go back to Yunzhong? She turned to look at Qingxi. Qingxi uttered an N and said, Yunzhong is in chaos, so it'd be better for us to leave. What about you? He looked at Jing Xingji and Nie Wushang. Nie Wushang said, I want to enter closed-door meditation for a while. Then I'll go back to Yunzhong to solve a matter. She looked calm. Obviously, she had already thought about it carefully. Mo Tiange thought for a moment, and immediately knew what matter Nie Wushang wanted to solve. She looked at her and said, If you need help, come to me. Nie Wushang nodded then smiled. I'm afraid I won't have this chance. I have to do this matter myself. That was her own karma. Mo Tiange also smiled and patted her shoulder. Then I wish you all the best. What about you? Are you willing to accept my suggestion? She looked at Jing Xingji. Jing Xingji stretched his body then said, I'll go back with you. He seemed to say it casually without the slightest hesitation. Presumably, he'd thought about it for a long time. She was surprised to see him agree. You've thought it through. Jing Xingji smiled faintly. You're right. At this critical moment, what's the use of thinking about those things? Gujian sect is my beginning. I want to go back and take back everything my master lost. Perhaps he didn't have the same reverence for Gujian sect anymore, but there were people he respected in Gujian sect. Whether it was his late master or venerable swordsman Yuanying, he didn't want their efforts to go to waste. If it was really like what they said, that the world would be destroyed after the world fell into chaos, he still wanted to go back to Gujian sect. Hey, if you go back to Gujian sect, what's your title? Venerable Swordsman Xingji? No, I have to pick up goosebumps. Jing Xingji rolled his eyes at Mo Tiange and said, Among our Gujian sect's titles, some are names, some are Taoist names, and some are sword names. I've never taken a Taoist name, so I'll naturally take my sword name as my title. Although Gujian sect was also based on Taoist laws, it wasn't like orthodox Taoist groups where core formation cultivators took Taoist names, Tao masters and Lord Taoists. Whether they took Taoist names or not was entirely up to them. Among venerable swordsman Nascent Soul, Yuanying was his name, Fuling and Zhongguang were his Taoist names, and Xiaohe was his sword name. Jing Xingji's name was 3 characters, and he didn't have a Taoist name. So he naturally followed the habit of taking his sword name as his title, and took it as Venerable Swordsman Stillwater. Venerable Swordsman Stillwater, Venerable Swordsman Stillwater. Mo Tiange repeated it twice and held back her laughter. They really match. Jing Xingji ignored her. Congratulations. Nie Wushang nodded at him with a smile. Jing Xingji, who was used to Nie Wushang's sarcastic remarks from time to time, felt awkward and asked cautiously, Are you normal? Nie Wushang stopped smiling and said seriously, Do you want to change your sword name? If there's nothing else, let's go. She said. Our group is too eye-catching, so we better not stay here for too long. Mo Tiange nodded and said, Let's leave a message for Ling Yunhe. After all, he's now our companion. No one objected. Mo Tiange thought for a moment then said to Nie Wushang and Yang Qingji, You two have the primordial devil great technique, so you'd better leave Yunzhong to avoid running into Moon Shadow Devil Monarch. Yang Qingji said, I still have some things to deal with. After I'm done, I'll leave Yunzhong and maybe go to the Celestial Pole. Nie Wushang said, I've already decided to go to Xiaoyang to hide. Mo Tiange was stunned. Xiaoyang. Nie Wushang nodded. Xiaoyang is a barren place with complicated people. It's a good place to hide. Whether it's Yunzhong or the Celestial Pole, they're not suitable for me right now. Mo Tiange thought of Master Song Feng and sighed. The 5 of them finally agreed that Yang Qingji would send a message to Ling Yunhe. Then they would exchange 10,000 miles sound-transmitting talismans with each other to decide on a place to contact each other. Chapter 653. After returning to Xianqing School, they went to visit Lord Taoist Jinghe. Lord Taoist Jinghe was very satisfied with their return after more than a year. How was it? How was your harvest? This question stunned them for a moment. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed that apart from Xiaofan obtaining Black Tortoise's breath, they didn't gain anything else. Did they work for nothing? After they told their experiences, Lord Taoist Jinghe waved his hand. It's good that you got Black Tortoise's breath. Wait until you go to the last sacrificial temple and see what's going on. Mo Tiange pondered for a while and asked doubtfully, Master, the friend senior who mentioned seemed to have a hard time going to the sacrificial temple. Why did it seem easy for us? If no one fought for it, it would have been a smooth journey without any twists and turns. But we didn't discover the so-called secret at all. Did we do something wrong? Lord Taoist Jinghe said, I've thought about this a long time ago. It's indeed not right. However, this is only what Senior Hoopa told us. We don't know the truth. We don't know enough, so we can't make inferences. Mo Tiange sighed. She also knew it was difficult to infer the truth with such little information. Okay, you two can go and rest. We have no clues about the Qilin sacrificial temple. I'm afraid we'll have to slowly inquire about it. Just concentrate on cultivating. Yes, master. The two of them answered and asked about the sex situation before leaving Shangqing Palace and returning to the cave in the extreme abyss pool. Grandmaster. Upon seeing the two of them, Xia Guzi and Xiaozue, who were sitting back to back and laughing while reading a book by the pool, were so shocked that they hastily stood up. Greetings, Grandmasters. Welcome back, Grandmasters. Emotianga was amused. Why are you so scared? Xia Guzi looked up and saw that they weren't angry. He smiled and said, Disciple lost his composure. Grandmasters, please don't blame me. Just don't go out and embarrass yourselves. Qinshi had already gone inside. Emotianga said, Call them here. Yes, Grandmaster Qingwei. Soon, all the disciples came to greet her. Yuan and Shisu were still absent. She trained them to serve the sect, so she didn't care. Yizhenji and Shui Limbo were both absent. Yizhenji had made up his mind to train himself well, so he had been killing enemies on Demonic Mountain in recent years, while Shui Limbo went out to look for opportunities to form her gold core. Zhang Yushu, Xiejingyi, and Qi Yunshu remained in the cave. Hearing the news, the three of them hurried over to pay their respects. The two of them carefully asked the disciples about their homework and were quite satisfied. As expected, it was right for them to not only look at aptitude. Other than aptitude, temperament was even more important. Look at these three people. Where else could they find such worry-free disciples? You're very good, Emotianga said gently. However, when it comes to cultivation, you have to have a limit. You can't force yourself. Your foundation isn't very solid, so you mustn't be too hasty. You should know that the age at which you form your gold core, or your nascent soul, is just an empty title. The most important thing is to walk step by step steadily. Thinking about it, she felt that as the youngest nascent soul cultivator in the celestial pole, it seemed a bit like showing off her age was not important, and it was hard to convince others. So she continued to say, On this point, I have the most experience. If you can make a realm breakthrough later, when the conditions are right, you'll succeed naturally. Compared to advancing earlier, you'll have fewer hidden dangers and can go further. Her two disciples, and Sang Yushu nodded in agreement. They had all heard that when Lord Daoist Qingwei built his foundation, he deliberately slowed down his cultivation speed. At that time, they just felt envious. But now they had a different understanding. After teaching her for a while, she sent her three disciples away. The two of them sat opposite each other and didn't speak for a long time. After a long time, Qinshi asked, What are you thinking about? After a while, Emotianga answered, I'm thinking about Yunzhong. What's wrong? Emotianga took some time to think, then said, Say, for this kind of thing to suddenly happen in Yunzhong, is it because of fate? Qinshi was stunned. She continued to say, Think about it. What Demon Lord Yuing did was too bold. Did he just want to trigger a melee in Yunzhong? If it were me, since I decided to trap and kill these people, I would make sure no one was left alive. Qinshi paused and asked, How do you know Demon Lord Yuing didn't think that way? But only half of the trapped cultivators were killed or injured. Qinshi shook his head. We only see the result, but we can't see the process. Maybe Demon Lord Yuing originally had a foolproof plan, but it failed. Emotianga tilted her head and thought about it. She nodded slowly. It seems. And what you said makes sense. Qinshi said. Of course, it's also possible that there was a problem with their plan, or the strength of the trapped people was beyond their expectations. We're just outsiders and can only see one side of it. Emotianga was lost in thought for a while and said, The world changed, and the continents changed positions. We and the demonic cultivators met, which led to a war. Yuan province lost its good position, and was connected to the demonic cultivators' continent, so it faced a life-and-death situation. Now, Yunzhong is in chaos because of the decline of One Leaf Island and North Pole Island. The world changed because of us. In other words, is it all because of us? I don't think so, Qinshi said faintly. We still don't know why the world changed. Even if it's because of us, so what? Mortals say that everything is predetermined, let alone something that concerns billions of people in the world. We're just an inducement. Besides, Senior Hoopa said that the world is in chaos and evil thoughts are everywhere. In my opinion, people's hearts are the root of the chaos. Look at Demon Lord Yuing. If he wasn't greedy, why would he do this? Old Donkey Ma, teacher you, and the others are even more so. Mo Tinga thought for a while and sighed. Forget it. It happened anyway. It's meaningless to look into the cause. Yes, if we want to know the root of all this, we have to solve this mystery. Maybe we'll get the answer when we go to Qilin. Mo Tinga hesitated. Senior Marshal Brother, do you really think we'll get the answer if we go to Qilin? We've been to 4 sacrificial temples, but we didn't get anything. Qinshi smiled. Even so, we have to go to Qilin. We know too little, and can do too little. There's nothing else we can do except this. Several days later, news came from Kuanzhong City that Jing Xingji had returned to Gujian sect, and was called Venerable Swordsman Stillwater. Mo Tinga giggled. He was really called Venerable Swordsman Stillwater. Speaking of which, his return made Gujian sect overjoyed and Tiandao sect worried. In addition to Venerable Swordsman Yuanying, there were 2 other nascent soul sword cultivators in Gujian sect. They were both in the early stage, and seemed to have mediocre aptitudes. Jing Xingji's return happened to fill this gap. He had high aptitudes, strong swordsmanship, young age, and was already in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, so it was very likely that he would advance to the late stage. As for Venerable Swordsman Yuanying, he was about the same age as Lord Daoist Jinyang. If there were no accidents, he could live for another 600 or 700 years. If Jing Xingji had enough fated chances, this amount of time would be enough for him to advance to the late stage. As long as there were cultivators in the late stage of the nascent soul realm, Gujian sect could always maintain its transcendent position. As for Tiandao sect, they only had 5 nascent soul cultivators. If no more disciples advanced to the nascent soul realm, they would be suppressed by Gujian sect sooner or later. Jing Xingji's return almost made Lu Dingyuan's head turn white from worry. Compared to Tiandao sect, Xianqing school was much calmer. Gujian sect had many nascent soul cultivators, but were they more than them? The current Xianqing school wasn't the Xianqing school from 200 years ago. Besides, with that huge amount of resources, would they need to worry about having no successors? Speaking of which, the disciples attracted by Qin Shi soul formation were also about to form their gold cores. The sects in the celestial pole grew and declined. Generally speaking, it was still stable, but Yunzhong was a mess. After the incident in Carefree Valley, Juyan sect had a falling out with Yu Mountain Academy, Danxia sect, and 5 Elements Valley. They united with the small and medium-sized cultivation groups that were killed in Carefree Valley and fought each other to the death. The cultivation world in Yunzhong had been peaceful for too long. Once this fight broke out, the losses were especially huge. However, no one could stop. Nearly 30 nascent soul cultivators died at the same time. How shocking was that? How could the sects of those fallen cultivators swallow this anger? This kind of blood feud would certainly be passed down from generation to generation, until one side was defeated, or ended by a stronger force. And all of this had nothing to do with Mo Tianga and the others who left Yunzhong. ***** Inside the virtual sky world, the spiritual aura was almost tangible. In front of Xiaofan's house, a vast and distant aura gathered the water spiritual aura into a stream. Xiaofan came to greet them. "Master, madam." Mo Tianga asked, "How is it?" Xiaofang reported, "It's almost done. It'll probably happen in 1 or 2 days." Mo Tianga nodded, then asked, "What about Feifei and Xiaohua? If nothing unexpected happens, Xiaohua will make a realm breakthrough in 3 to 5 years. As for Feifei," Xiaofang shrugged, "his situation is unusual. Probably only he knows about it." "Then what about Shirtu?" Mo Tianga turned her head to look, but she couldn't find Shita's huge body. "Madam, what do you want to ask?" "If it's cultivation level," Xiaofang said with some embarrassment. "Please forgive Xiaofang's ignorance, but I really don't know how to classify it, so." On the surface, Shirtu looked like a demonic beast, but its flesh and blood had long changed and now looked like Shita's. Moreover, its aura was mixed, so it really couldn't be classified. Forget it. Emotienga decided to give up. Shirtu isn't our spiritual beast, he's just Feifei's friend. Don't worry about him, just let him live there. Xiaofeng nodded, just as she was about to report the situation of the virtual sky world. The stream in front of Xiaofen's house suddenly moved, and the water rushed into the house. With a splash sound, the house was suddenly washed away, revealing a huge mass of water. A person was wrapped in the clear water. As the water swirled rapidly, it slowly became shallow. When the water ran out, that person slowly fell to the ground. This was a teenager about 18 or 19 years old. He looked a bit older than Feifei, but he didn't have Feifei's bewitching handsomeness. He was dressed in low-key cyan gray clothes, plain and unremarkable. However, if one took a closer look, they would find that his eyes and brows were clear with a hint of shyness. His whole body was like water, incomparably clean, making people unable to have any filthy thoughts. "Greetings, master." After landing, the teenager stepped forward and saluted Emotienga. Seeing Qinshi beside her, he wanted to salute him too, but he hesitated. He didn't know what to call Qinshi, so he showed an embarrassed expression. Seeing this, Emotienga smiled and said, "Xiaofan?" "Yes." Xiaofan regained his composure. "How was it? Did the transformation go smoothly?" Xiaofan looked happy and said, "I've integrated the black tortoise pearl into my beast core, and all my spiritual aura has been transformed into black tortoise's breath. I'm no different from divine beast black tortoise now." "That's good." Emotienga felt that his breath was solid, so there shouldn't be any future troubles, so she said, "Get ready. We're going out to cross the tribulation." Chapter 654. In the sky above Clear Spring Peak, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Shocked, Xianqing school disciples rushed out of their caves to watch this amazing scene. "Look, what's this? Is someone forming his gold core?" "No." Another disciple curled his lips. "Last time Martial Uncle Dingguan formed his gold core, it wasn't like this." "What? What's that?" The wind was so strong that they couldn't even stand stably. Before they could chat, a core formation cultivator flew into the air and shouted, "All disciples, return to your caves and activate the defensive formation. No one is allowed to go out without orders." His voice was enhanced by a spell. It traveled far and wide and repeated several times. The aura refining and foundation building disciples returned to their immortals' caves with doubts in their hearts. In the end, they were all guessing what kind of extraordinary thing had happened. After the low-level disciples returned to their caves, Xianqing School's Great Mountain Protecting Formation was activated. Except for Lord Taoist Lingxi, who was in closed-door meditation, the other 4 nascent Soul Lord Taoists who stayed in the sect all appeared in the air above the main peak. They stood in 4 corners with a teenager in a green and gray robe in the middle. After the dark clouds gathered, the first thunder fell. The earth-shattering feeling made the low-level cultivators panic. However, when they thought about the nascent soul patriarchs in the sect, they all calmed down and meditated in the cave abode, waiting for news. Emotienga and the others had already experienced the shape-shifting heavenly tribulation. Now that they were inside the sect, there was a great mountain protecting formation above them, and there were 4 nascent soul cultivators watching over them from below. Although the commotion was big, it was stable. Xiaofan's heavenly tribulation was the same as Xiaofeng's. Not only did it have 10 tribulations, but it also had golden lightning in the end. Presumably, it was because he inherited the divine beast and had the bloodline of the black tortoise. Half a day later, the clouds in the sky dissipated, revealing a clear sky. The great mountain protecting formation returned to its half-open state. The core formation cultivators of each peak flew into the air and shouted, "The ban has been lifted. All disciples can go out freely." Upon hearing that, the low-level disciples felt relieved and hurriedly went out to inquire about what happened. Soon, a piece of news spread throughout Xianqing School. Another nascent soul, no, an 8th-rank beast cultivator appeared in the sect. Xiaofeng's matter wasn't concealed, so most Xianqing School disciples knew about it. Under Lord Taoist Shoujing's name, there was a demonic beast that passed the transformation tribulation and became a demonic cultivator. which was equivalent to the school's 9th nascent soul cultivator. Now, another demon beast under Tao Lord Qingwei had advanced to take on a human form, and was equivalent to the 10th nascent soul cultivator. Many of the disciples were overjoyed by this news. In addition, the sect had been extremely generous in the past 10 years, and the number of foundation establishment and core formation cultivators had been increasing day by day. They couldn't help but have incomparable confidence in the sect. Xianqing School was indeed the #1 cultivation group in the celestial pole. Even Tiandao sect at its peak couldn't compare to them. After receiving her school uniform and identity tablet, Yifan returned to the extreme abyssal pool alone. Mo Tiange and Qin she didn't leave. Together with the two Lord Taoists, Jinghe and Huayan, they sat in the Hall of Three Pure Ones. Demon cultivator ha! A demon cultivator. Lord Taoist Jinghe drank a cup of tea, then cast a sidelong glance at the two of them. You two little brats, you're really quiet. Apart from the spirit beast sect, he had never heard of any sect having a spirit beast that could transform into human form. It's fine if there's only one of you, but there's a second one. Hurry up and tell me, are there more? Mo Tiange smiled. Yes, I still have 2 more spirit beasts that are about to transform into human form. Ah, Lord Taoist Jinghe was stunned. You really have more? Yes. Mo Tiange tried to be low-key, lest this childish master would make a fuss. Lord Taoist Jinghe didn't make a fuss, but he glared at her and muttered indignantly, "Humph, all the good things are yours. Humph." During the heavenly tribulation just now, she actually used her natal magic weapon to collect the lightning of the heavenly tribulation. That was heavenly tribulation lightning, and it was the golden lightning among the heavenly tribulation lightning. He almost hated himself for not having a thunder spiritual root. Master! Qin she called out and glanced at him faintly. He could see the meaning behind Qin she's words. Don't be childish. Lord Taoist Jinghe felt even more indignant. Accepting these 2 disciples was simply to piss him off. Shoujing Qingwei, Lord Taoist Huayan spoke in time, and looked at the 2 of them with a smile. I haven't congratulated you yet. You've gained another big helper. Senior Marshal Brother, you're too polite. Qin she said with a smile. These spirit beasts are still far from being able to stand on their own. In any case, it's a good thing for them to advance and take human form. Lord Taoist Huayan paused for a moment and brought up business. Yesterday, I sent a message to Quanzhong City. Senior Marshal Brother Xinjiang was very happy and told us to do everything as usual and ignore other things. They'll handle it. Do everything as usual. Mo Tiange looked up. Yes. Lord Taoist Huayan stared at them gently. Senior Marshal Brother Xinjiang has considered the matter in Yunzhong, and specially told us that it doesn't matter if we don't get anything. Man proposes, God disposes. Senior Marshal Brother Xinjiang also thinks that everything can only be concluded after we find the Qilin. The sect has been looking for clues about the Qilin. You two just need to cultivate. Only when you have enough strength can you be prepared. Yes. Mo Tiange and Qin she answered at the same time. By the way, you won't be in closed-door meditation soon, will you? Mo Tiange and Qin she looked at each other and shook their heads. No. Then you should spend more time teaching your disciples. In any case, we're the nascent soul Lord Taoists of the sect. Teaching them casually might be the best way to heaven for those disciples. Yes, I'll follow Senior Marshal Brother's instructions. Mo Tiange secretly glanced at Lord Taoist Jinghe, who was still angry and ignoring them, and thought to herself, Senior Marshal Brother Huayan is acting like a teacher. Master, you can forget about it. Since it was the decision of her Senior Marshal Brothers, Mo Tiange and Qin she also cultivated and taught disciples in the sect with peace of mind. More than 10 years ago, when Lord Taoist Jinghe took charge of the sect and began to train disciples, he said that just like aura refining and foundation building disciples, core formation cultivators would also hold a monthly spell assembly. Core formation cultivators were different from low-level disciples. After they entered the core formation realm, they had their own understanding of cultivation and had chosen the path they wanted to take, so they didn't need to be guided step by step like before. Therefore, This spell assembly was mostly about core formation cultivators raising questions, and nascent soul lord Taoists explaining. There were only a few nascent soul lord Taoists staying in the sect. Needless to say, Lord Taoist Lingxi was always in closed-door meditation, and only Lord Taoist Jinghe and Lord Taoist Huayan were alive. Therefore, the spell assembly didn't have a fixed location. Lord Taoist Jinghe would give a talk in Shangqing Palace, and Lord Taoist Huayan would occasionally give a talk in Seoul's Retreat Peak. After Mo Tiange and Qin Shi returned, they also joined the ranks of the main speakers. From time to time, the rocks on the surface of the extreme abyss were filled with core formation cultivators. In the past 10 years, the number of core formation cultivators increased day by day. Although many of them were outside and many of them were in closed-door meditation, there were still nearly 20 people who often came to listen to the talks. In front of these core formation cultivators, most of whom were older than her, Mo Tiange was a bit restrained at first, but later, after talking a lot, she relaxed. Regardless of her age, her cultivation level was solid, so in front of these people, she was a senior. As for these core formation cultivators, because she went to Yunzhong after advancing to the core formation realm, and only returned after advancing to the nascent soul realm, they weren't familiar with her. In the past few decades, Xianqing School had already shaped her into the most talented cultivator in the history of the celestial pole. Every disciple in the school admired her, and they were no exception. Cultivating, teaching, preaching, time passed like flowing water. 5 years later, Xiahua advanced and took a human form as expected. Xiahua was only about 200 years old. After taking a human form, it looked like a 14 or 15-year-old girl, lively and quick-witted, completely different from Xiaofeng's amorous style. Feifei was already numb to Xiaohua's transformation, but when Mo Tiange laughed at it, it just sneered, turned around, locked itself in the hut, and went to work hard. Feifei's seclusion lasted 10 years. Feifei was the first spiritual beast to obtain the divine beast's breath. If it had a good foundation, and the Feifeis were a clan that focused on divine comprehension, Xiaofan and Xiahua wouldn't have advanced to the 8th rank before them. After 10 years of meditation, it finally absorbed the white tiger's breath completely and rushed to the 8th rank in one fell swoop. Feifei's 8th rank heavenly tribulation was still helped by Lord Taoist Jinghe and Lord Taoist Huayan. With Xiaofan and Xiahua in front, the two of them, and the low-level cultivators below them were already used to fighting against heavenly tribulations. Except for those who entered the school within 10 years, all the disciples closed their immortals' caves, opened the defensive formation, and waited for the heavenly tribulation to pass. This time, Feifei's heavenly tribulation also had 10 tribulations, and its power was a bit stronger than that of the other 3 divine beasts. Mo Tiange thought it might be because Feifei had the bloodline of a divine beast. After Feifei's heavenly tribulation, news came from Kuanzhong City that the Immortal Alliance intended to launch a strong attack on the beast cultivators and beat them back in one fell swoop. This would give the celestial pole several decades, or even hundreds of years of peace, so that they could recuperate and concentrate on dealing with the devil path. For this reason, the Immortal Alliance summoned all the nascent soul cultivators to Kuanzhong City. Lord Taoist Xunyang ordered that the sect would be handed over to Mo Tiange, Qin Shi, and Lord Taoist Lingxi, while Jinghe and Huayan would go to Kuanzhong City. After receiving the order, Lord Taoist Jinghe and Lord Taoist Huayan gave a few simple instructions and set foot on the transporting formation to Kuanzhong City. The 3 islands of Shaoyang. In the hearts of the cultivators in Yunzhong and Yuanzhou, Shaoyang was the most dangerous place they didn't want to go to. Compared with the orderly order in Yunzhong and Yuanzhou, Shaoyang was a place without laws and rules at all. Murder and robbery were commonplace here. There was only one rule in living here: the winner takes all. Originally, Yunzhong was in the middle, Yuanzhou was in the east, and Shaoyang was in the west, forming a line. After the world changed, Yunzhong moved to the north, Yuanzhou moved to the southwest, and Shaoyang moved to the east. Now Shaoyang was in the middle, Yunzhong was in the north, and Yuanzhou was in the south. Now, Shaoyang and Yunzhong were separated by the original South Sea of the Celestial Pole. There were no islands, and the sea area was dangerous, which was equivalent to cutting off contact. On the other hand, Yuanzhou, because of its numerous islands and relatively calm sea area, became the favorite target of plunder for cultivators in Shaoyang. From time to time, they would invite their friends and relatives to go to Yuanzhou for a few days to rob, kill, and seize treasures. They would have fun, and didn't even need to pay for the trip. This led to two consequences. First, the living standards of the cultivators in Shaoyang rose sharply. Second, the fighting standards of the cultivators in Yuanzhou rose sharply. Aside from the disharmonious process, the result alone seemed to be everyone was happy, and it could be said that everyone got something. Nie Wuxiang lived a very comfortable life here. Everyone in Shaoyang was a desperado, and most of them were devil cultivators. Whoever had the bigger fist was the boss, which really suited her very well. On the first day she arrived in Shaoyang, the few nascent soul cultivators in Shaoyang all thought she came to snatch their territory, so they made unwise decisions one after another. Based on the principle of killing whoever stood in her way, Nie Wuxiang quickly beat down most of them, and became the overlord of Shaoyang on the island. Chapter 655. Nie Wuxiang opened her eyes and clenched her fists, feeling very satisfied. After settling for so many years, she finally broke through and entered the middle stage. In fact, she formed her devil nascent earlier than Mo Tiange. Back then, Mei Feng created primordial devil, and swallowed a lot of core formation cultivators. She originally planned to use it on herself to directly advance from the early stage to the late stage of the nascent soul realm. But in the end, she took advantage of it. With that primordial devil aura, she became a devil cultivator, and only needed to use that primordial devil aura to form her nascent soul. But later, because the primordial devil art she stole wasn't complete, she stayed in the early stage, which slowed down her cultivation speed. After obtaining the primordial devil steel, her cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. Devil cultivators rarely encounter bottlenecks, so she finally rushed into the middle stage in one go. Fortunately, she wasn't too slow. Qin Shi and Jing Xingji were cultivators of the same generation, but their ages were 100 years apart. Mo Tiange was a bit younger than her, so it was embarrassing for her to be behind her. Nie Wuxiang stretched her muscles and felt comfortable all over, so she stood up and walked out of the cave. Shaoyang was indeed the most dangerous place in the eyes of Yunzhong cultivators. Here, the barren hills and unruly rivers, the spirit veins, and the devil's domain were extremely small. When Nie Wuxiang came here for the first time, she simply wanted to shed tears of sympathy for the cultivators of Shaoyang. In Yunzhong, core formation cultivators didn't even want the one she occupied now. But in Shaoyang, it became an immortal's cave that nascent soul cultivators fought over. There weren't many nascent soul cultivators in Shaoyang. Who was willing to suffer in Shaoyang after cultivating to the nascent soul realm? Those who stayed in Shaoyang had no other choice. Some had too many enemies, some offended people they shouldn't offend, and some got into trouble because of their wealth. In addition, there were only so many resources in Shaoyang. After fighting and killing, there were only 5 nascent soul cultivators left. 2 of them were beaten to the ground by her, 2 were scared away by her, and the last one was very smart and didn't get involved. So this cave naturally belonged to her. Devil Monarch. Upon seeing her, a bearded core formation devil cultivator with a weathered face hurriedly came forward and respectfully saluted her. Devil Monarch, if you have something to say, just tell me to do it. Nie Wuxiang nodded very calmly, then took out a jade slip. Prepare these things. Yes. The fiendish cultivator took the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. He was stunned. Fiend Lord this. What? Is there a problem? Nie Wuxiang indifferently glanced at him. The fiendish cultivator shuddered. He couldn't help but think back to several decades ago, when she beat up the previous master of the Immortals cave to the point where his nascent soul was almost shattered. He repeatedly said, No. He skimmed through the jade slip once more. This subordinate will immediately gather people and head to Yuan province. Wait. Nie Wuxiang took out a spirit stone pouch. Don't alarm others. Just go to Yuanzhou and buy it by yourself. The fiendish cultivator stared at her with his mouth agape. Buy it? It was the first time Xiao Yang, a nascent soul cultivator, wanted to buy something. What? Another problem? Nia Wushang slowly clenched her fists. I wouldn't dare. The fiendish cultivator took the bag of spirit stones. I'll do it immediately. I guarantee that no one will find out. Nia Wushang nodded in satisfaction. Go. Yes. The fiendish cultivator didn't dare to say another word and eagerly left. After watching him leave, Nia Wushang stood for a while before returning to her cave and sitting down cross-legged again. The middle stage of nascent soul plus those things were more or less enough. She didn't dare to wait until the late stage of nascent soul. By that time, his injuries would most likely have already recovered, right? She knew his strength too well. If she let him recover his cultivation level, it would be very difficult for her to have another chance. At that time, she could only wait for his lifespan to run out, and she would pass away. If that was the case, this knot in her heart would never be untied. Nia Wushang once again clenched her fists, her gaze firm and resolute. She must personally knock him down and give herself a new life. In less than a month, the core formation devil cultivator returned from Yuan province. He respectfully presented the Qianquan bag and the remaining spirit stones. Devil Monarch, this subordinate didn't fail you. Nia Wushang took the Qianquan bag, checked it one by one, then nodded. Good, you did well. You can be considered conscientious for several decades. Since you're so obedient, I can promise you one request. The core formation devil cultivator was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed. Thank you, Devil Monarch. Nia Wushang said faintly. Before I leave Small Sun City, I'll keep my promise. You can think it over before coming back. The devil cultivator was stunned. Devil Monarch, you want to leave Small Sun City? Nia Wushang slightly raised her eyes and looked at the void, not answering for a long time. Just when the devil cultivator thought she wouldn't answer, she said, You'd better tell me earlier, lest I can't fulfill my promise in time. Devil Monarch, say it. The devil cultivator said. Devil Monarch should know that this subordinate was seriously injured many years ago. So my devil core was damaged and it's hard for my cultivation level to advance. I know. Without waiting for him to finish, Nia Wushang said, I can help you repair your devil core, but that's all. The devil cultivator was overjoyed. Thank you, Devil Monarch. Thank you. Nia Wushang looked at him, thanking her profusely, and sighed inwardly. This subordinate voluntarily came to her after she occupied the island. She took a fancy to him, because his devil core was damaged, and he was simple-minded. The reason why his devil core was damaged, and he was stranded in Small Sun City, was because of his sad past. This made Nia Wushang inevitably think that if she hadn't acted quickly, the best result would be the same as him, right? Master. Her eyes were cold, and her fists were clenched. After a long time, she slowly exhaled. She would definitely get revenge for more than 100 years of humiliation. Asterisk. Although the war between beast cultivators was in full swing, Xianqing School's major competition, which was held once every 50 years, was still held. According to Xianqing School's rules, the aura refining and foundation building realms would have a minor competition every 10 years, while the foundation building and core formation realms would have a major competition every 50 years. In the past few decades, Xianqing School had many talented foundation building and core formation cultivators. Almost half of the disciples were fighting outside, but there were still more than 300 foundation building disciples and more than 30 core formation cultivators in the school. The rewards for the major competition were very generous. From cultivation techniques, magic weapons, to spiritual pills and materials, there was everything. Furthermore, core formation cultivators aside, there was a high chance that foundation establishment cultivators would be taken in as disciples by core formation perfected beings, or even nascent souls, if they performed outstandingly in the competition. For most people, that was an irresistible temptation. At this moment, on the main peak of Mount Taikong, a huge fighting arena was built out of thin air with a profound formation technique. From the outside, the fighting arena looked like a transparent lotus platform floating in the air. But for the people inside, it was a vast and boundless world. On the fighting arena, life and death didn't matter. This didn't mean that dying on the fighting arena would be in vain. Rather, it meant that even if you died, you wouldn't die. This fighting arena wasn't an ordinary fighting arena. Those inside would be protected by a formation, and their real primordial spirit and physical body would be preserved. Even if their physical body and primordial spirit were destroyed during the competition, they would be restored to their original state once it was over. Under Elder Weiwu's order, the two foundation-building disciples on the fighting arena began to fight. On the cloud platforms surrounding the dueling arena, the core formation perfected masters watched and commented on their disciples. This was a rare opportunity to watch a real fight. Because of the characteristics of the fighting arena, it was different from the usual sparring. It could better display the strength of cultivators and make it easier to see their strengths and weaknesses. Watching this scene, Emotinga couldn't help but sigh. The strength of a big cultivation group was really beyond the reach of small cultivation groups. Even a medium-sized cultivation group like Yunwu sect couldn't build this fighting arena, even if they used all their resources, let alone those small cultivation groups with only a few core formation cultivators. When she wandered around Kunwu with second uncle, she saw many immortals assemblies held by cultivation groups, but they were all just ordinary fighting arenas reinforced with formations. Junior martial sister Qingwei, you've never participated in the major competition between cultivation groups, right? A gentle and refined voice rang in her ears. Emotinga turned around and saw Lord Taoist Lingxi on the other side. The old ones were all conscripted to Kuanzhong City, so there were only the three of them in Xianqing School. Lord Taoist Lingxi just came out of closed-door meditation not long ago. Her cultivation level had improved greatly, so she was in a good mood and felt like spring breeze was blowing on her face all day long. Senior martial brother Lingxi, you must be joking. Junior martial sister never had a chance. Lord Taoist Lingxi smiled and said, for disciples of nascent soul Lord Taoists like us, foundation-building cultivators generally don't participate in major and minor competitions. Only core formation cultivators participate. Junior martial sister never had a chance, but you advanced too quickly. Senior martial brother Shoujing and I participated in 2 major competitions when we were in the core formation realm. During the first competition, senior martial brother Shoujing was in closed-door meditation, so we only had one chance to share the stage. Oh, Emotinga was quite interested. What was the result? Of course I lost. Lord Taoist Lingxi smiled. Although he said he lost, he didn't care about it at all. Qinshi smiled and said, that's because you just advanced to the core formation realm, and your cultivation level has just stabilized. We're about the same age. What do you mean I just advanced to the core formation realm? I lost to you. Lord Taoist Lingxi shook his head and said jokingly, senior martial brother Shoujing, you're still so modest after winning. What do you think we the losers do? Qinshi waved his hand and looked at Emotinga. The real winner is over there. We're all losers in front of her. Lord Taoist Lingxi was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. Then he said, senior martial brother Shoujing, I'm confident in other things, but I really can't compare to you in this aspect. Qinshi also laughed without the slightest embarrassment. Speaking of this, in recent decades, outstanding disciples have appeared frequently in the sect. This year's major competition is quite worth watching. Lord Taoist Lingxi's gaze shifted to the fighting stage. His eyes flickered. Oh, this disciple is not bad. Emotinga and Qinshi also turned around, and were also attracted by the fighting stage. The 2 disciples on the fighting stage were both in the middle stage of the foundation building realm. One of them had a lot of treasures and spells, so he was probably an elite disciple under a core formation cultivator. The other disciple was much worse off. He only had a high-grade magic tool, and the cultivation technique he practiced was also relatively ordinary. Of these 2 disciples, the former was suppressed and beaten, which was really strange. After watching for a while, Qinshi suddenly said, this person is really a promising talent. Lord Taoist Lingxi nodded. Yes, whether it's magic tools or cultivation techniques, he's far inferior. but he relies on a solid foundation and flexible adaptability to the situation. What's more rare is that his fighting spirit is high and he's very tenacious. In time, he'll definitely have some achievements. Qinshi looked at him. Junior Martial Brother Lingxi, you're very interested in this disciple. Lord Taoist Lingxi smiled and summoned a disciple. What's his name? The disciple flipped through the name list and reported. Grandmaster. This junior martial brother is called Mo Xiaoliang, a disciple of Sweet Dew Peak. He's 45 years old and built his foundation when he was 25. Oh! Lord Taoist Lingxi narrowed his eyes. It's rare for him to enter the middle stage in less than 20 years. Does he have a master? This question showed that he was interested in him. The disciple was envious and jealous, so he answered, no master. A trace of doubt flashed in Lord Taoist Lingxi's eyes. His aptitude is not bad, his willpower is even better, and his cultivation level is advancing fast. Why doesn't he have a master? This disciple doesn't know. Lord Taoist Lingxi naturally didn't expect this foundation-building disciple to answer. Not far away, Tao-Seeking Palace's skill-imparting elder heard this and stood up to answer. Martial uncle, this Mo Xiaoliang doesn't have a master because his temper is too violent. Back when he was in the aura refining realm, he accidentally killed a fellow disciple, so... Why? Lord Taoist Lingxi's expression turned serious. Killing a fellow disciple was the sect's prohibition. No matter how outstanding your aptitude was, if you violated this prohibition, you would be expelled from the sect, not to mention being accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul Tao Lord. It was a disciple who used his family's power to deliberately bully others. Mo Xiaoliang was too impulsive and used too much force, I see. Lord Taoist Lingxi nodded. In that case he can't be blamed. Yes. Seeing that Lord Taoist Lingxi was quite interested in this disciple, skill-imparting elder echoed, the sect forbids killing fellow disciples. If he was in the wrong, he would have been expelled from the sect long ago. But his temper is really a headache. Back then, several junior martial brothers were also interested in him. But in the end, they thought it was better to temper his temper. Chapter 656. Junior Martial Brother Mo, please come with me. When Mo Xiaoliang stepped down from the stage, a steward flew down from the cloud platform and said in an official tone. All the disciples were filled with envy and jealousy when they saw this scene. All of them understood what this meant. Someone must have taken a fancy to Mo Xiaoliang's performance and intended to take him as a disciple, so they summoned him for questioning. As long as he seized this opportunity and performed well, he would be able to ascend to the heavens in a single bound and become the disciple of a high-level cultivator. Mo Xiaoliang was expressionless. He followed the steward and flew to the cloud platform. Greetings to the three grandmasters and martial uncles. He was a little surprised to be led to the three nascent soul Lord Taoists, but he didn't panic. He didn't lack etiquette, but he didn't show too much respect on his face. Lord Taoist Lingxi didn't mind at all and still said with a smile, Mo Xiaoliang, I have a question to ask you after watching your fight. Mo Xiaoliang bowed. Yes, please ask, Grandmaster. Lord Taoist Lingxi said. Which do you think is more important, temperament or aptitude? Mo Xiaoliang was stunned. He thought for a while and answered, temperament. Oh, Lord Taoist Lingxi was quite surprised. Many people thought that aptitude was more important, but most nascent soul Lord Taoists would think about it and say the two were equally important. She didn't expect Mo Xiaoliang to say temperament was more important. Why? Mo Xiaoliang answered, there's no reason. The grandmasters in our sect may not have super strong aptitude, but they certainly have extraordinary temperament. Lord Taoist Lingxi looked at them and said with a smile, among the 8 nascent soul cultivators in our sect, 5 have single spiritual roots. As for the remaining 3, one of them has a spiritual root of the origin, which is better than a single spiritual root. How do you explain this? Mo Xiaoliang said, Grandmaster Shoujing has double spiritual roots, but he was the first genius cultivator to form his gold core in Xianqing school. Moreover, he formed his nascent soul at the age of 211. Grandmaster Lingxi, you have a single spiritual root, So you can't compare with Grandmaster Shojing in terms of gold core or nascent soul. Grandmaster Huayan's aptitude is worse than Grandmaster Shojing's, but he still reached the nascent soul realm. Grandmaster Zhifei of Morning Sun Peak has a single spiritual root, but he still hasn't formed his nascent soul realm. Dalord Lingxi laughed. You really dare to say that? Mo Xiaoyang continued. Based on these three things, it's clear that those who reach the nascent soul realm don't necessarily have high aptitudes, but all of them have excellent temperaments. Dalord Rhinoceros smiled and said, those with talent but no temperament were all eliminated, right? Mo Xiaoyang hesitated for a moment before nodding. Yes. Then have you ever thought that those with no aptitude and temperament would have been eliminated even earlier? Mo Xiaoyang hesitated even longer. Dalord Rhinoceros simply smiled at him. Grandmaster is saying. Mo Xiaoyang said with some difficulty. Aptitude is actually more important than temperament? Dalord Lingxi shook his head. I didn't say anything. You don't need me to answer this question. Mo Xiaoyang remained silent. Mo Xiaoyang. After a long silence, Dalord Rhinoceros suddenly asked, are you willing to take me as your master and become my disciple? Although he knew the deacon called him up because someone was interested in him and might even accept him as a disciple, Mo Xiaoyang was still surprised to hear Dalord Rhinoceros ask him such a straightforward question. He didn't expect it to be a nascent soul grandmaster. He also didn't expect the other party to directly accept him as a disciple without testing him again and again. Seeing that he didn't answer for a long time, Dalord Rhinoceros raised her eyebrows. What? You don't want to? Mo Xiaoyang regained his composure. He suddenly lifted his robe and knelt down. Grandmaster Rhinoceros, please forgive me. Disciple once had a wish. Before I answer Grandmaster, I want to ask Grandmaster Qingwei a question first. Dalord Rhinoceros found it quite interesting and nodded. Okay. Mo Xiaoyang raised his head and stared at Mo Tinga. Something flashed in his eyes, like admiration and desire. He said, may I ask if Grandmaster Qingwei still remembers disciple? The Mo Xiaoyang in front of him looked like he was in his early 20s. He had a regular face and a fierce expression at the tip of his eyebrows and the corner of his eyes. So he wasn't handsome. However, the fierceness he exuded was exactly the same as in Mo Xiaoyang's memory. Mo Tinga nodded calmly. I remember, but I didn't expect your surname to be Mo Xiaoyang said. That day, Disciple was saved by Grandmaster, so Disciple was able to escape. When I entered the sect, Disciple asked Martial Uncle Yunyu how I could become Grandmaster Qingwei's disciple. Martial Uncle replied that I could become the most powerful disciple in Xianqing school. All these years, Disciple has been working hard and never slacking off. However, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. All these years, not to mention nascent soul lord Taoists, even core formation Taoists are unwilling to accept me as a disciple. Now that Grandmaster Rhinoceros wants to accept Disciple, Disciple knows this is a chance to change my fate. But before that, Disciple wants to ask Grandmaster, is Grandmaster willing to accept me as a disciple? On the cloud platform, all the cultivators who heard him looked at him with astonishment. Xianqing School had been established for so many years, but they had never heard of a nascent soul lord Taoist asking a disciple whether or not he was willing to accept him as a disciple. This Mo Xiaoyang was really too bold and thought too highly of himself. Mo Tinga's eyes were also filled with astonishment. She cast a glance at Lord Taoist Rhinoceros, who had been smiling all along, and asked, do you know that Senior Martial Brother Lingxi wants to accept you as a disciple not only because you're compatible with his temperament, but also because you're suitable to cultivate his cultivation technique? If you accept me as your master, I'll at most ask for a cultivation technique for you, but I can't give you pointers like he does. Disciple knows, Mo Xiaoyang said calmly, but this has been Disciple's wish for several decades. I have to ask before I'm willing to turn to someone else. Mo Tinga glanced at Lord Taoist Rhinoceros and said, I have no intention of accepting a disciple. Mo Xiaoyang exhaled, kowtowed to her, and turned to Lord Taoist Rhinoceros. Grandmaster Lingxi disciple is willing. Lord Taoist Rhinoceros didn't answer immediately. Instead, he said with a smile, "You asked her first and then replied to me. Isn't this telling others that in your heart, becoming my disciple isn't the best choice? If that's the case, would I still be willing to accept you as my disciple?" Mo Xiaoyang lowered his head and said, "If Grandmaster Lingxi changes your mind, disciple has nothing to say. Even so, would you still ask her just now?" "Yes." Mo Xiaoyang didn't hesitate at all. Lord Taoist Rhinoceros nodded. "Go. Someone will notify you later. Disciple will take her leave." Mo Xiaoyang kowtowed again and retreated without any rudeness. After a while, Mo Tiange asked, "Does Senior Marshal Brother Lingxi want to accept a disciple or not?" Lord Taoist Rhinoceros answered, "Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei really doesn't want to accept a disciple. Or does she want me to accept her?" The two of them looked at each other and laughed together. Lord Taoist Rhinoceros said, he said without hesitation that temperament is important, which means temperament is more important in his heart. His aptitude isn't bad, so it can be considered a pass. Temperament is only good for him. Moreover, what I value more is that he can face his heart directly. Even under the pressure of the three of us, he can still face his heart. Relatively speaking, having a violent temper isn't a big disadvantage. Nascent soul cultivators like them all knew that the first important point of the Great Tao was to face one's heart directly. Mo Xiaoyang had already achieved this point, which meant that his chances of stepping on the Great Tao in the future were much higher than those of ordinary people. Also, Qin Shi, who had been watching from the side, said, "He's not inflexible. He values ideals, but he won't die with them." "Yes," Lord Taoist Rhinoceros said with a smile. "A firm belief is necessary, but it can't be the same. If you don't know how to size up the situation, you'll also be eliminated by reality." In short, congratulations to Senior Marshal Brother Lingxi for accepting a good disciple. Mo Tiange cupped her hands. "Congratulations." On the first day of the competition, Lord Taoist Rhinoceros accepted a disciple. This news inspired many disciples and made them even more enthusiastic about the competition. 5 days later, all the foundation building disciples finished competing. There were about a dozen disciples who successfully worshipped high-level cultivators as their masters. Unfortunately, the others were all core formation masters. Mo Xiaoyang was the only one who worshipped a nascent soul Lord Taoist. The disciples were disappointed, but also envious. They were thinking about the next competition and worried that they would be too old to enter the eyes of a nascent soul grandmaster. Next was the competition for core formation cultivators. Under normal circumstances, the competition was the only opportunity to watch core formation cultivators fight. Therefore, not only were there not many people on the main peak, but there were also more. There were about 20 core formation cultivators participating in the competition this time. The fights between core formation cultivators were much more detailed, so there would probably be more than a dozen fights until the final round. The intensity of fights between core formation cultivators was also much higher, so there were at most 3 fights per day. In total, it would take 5 or 6 days for the competition to end. When the competition was completely over, it would be the opening day of the 10,000 Laws of Nature formation. All foundation building cultivators who entered the sect within 50 years had to enter the 10,000 Laws of Nature formation. No matter how she thought about it, she still had to be busy for more than 10 days. Mo Tiange simply stopped cultivating and prepared to spend this period of time leisurely. When the core formation cultivators competition began, Mo Tiange was surprised to find that Lord Taoist Miaoi's disciple, Wu Feishuang, had already formed her gold core. During the trip to the Eastern Sea, she lost one of her arms and was seriously injured. Kuang Zhu said it would take her about 10 to 20 years to fully recover. Including the time it took to form her gold core, it had only been 30 years since then. Out of curiosity, she asked and found out the reason was because of her. Back then, she took out a lot of spiritual plants and spiritual pills to shorten the time Wu Feishuang needed to recuperate. Later, she obtained enough medicinal pills and concentrated on cultivating. In 20 years, she broke through and formed her gold core in one fell swoop. Emotinga sighed and said, even so, she must have accumulated a lot to be able to enter the core formation realm so smoothly. Qin, she said faintly, I have to thank Jifei. If it weren't for him, it wouldn't have been so easy to sever the entanglement. Thinking about Bai Yanfei, who was still struggling in the core formation realm, Emotinga couldn't help but sigh. What was even more shocking was that Wu Feishuang's opponent was actually Jiang Min. Emotinga watched as the two of them met in the fighting arena. Both of them looked calm, just like they did in the past. They politely called each other senior and junior martial sisters, and their attitudes were friendly but not deliberately intimate. Presumably, they'd already let go of Bai Yanfei. Emotinga couldn't help but sigh for Bai Yanfei again. If he still couldn't let go, he would lose to them. Chapter 657. The wind from the north swept over with yellow sand, and the whole mountain was covered in sand and rustling. Langtu Mountain was like this all year round. Only a few rare rainy days could prevent the yellow sand from filling the sky. No one knew when it started, but the yellow sand here always carried a strange black aura. Once contaminated, mortals would immediately die, and even cultivators would be corroded. Many cultivators in the Celestial Pole knew that Langtu Mountain was one of the 3 most dangerous places in the extreme west, but almost no one knew that it was the abode of the number 1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole. In the sky full of sand, a black-clothed man leisurely stepped onto Langtu Mountain, ignoring the yellow sand as he walked step by step toward the belly of the mountain. There was a place in the belly of the mountain that was buried by yellow sand, but nascent soul cultivators could feel different auras coming from there. The black-clothed man stopped, made a complicated hand seal, and pushed gently. A deep cave suddenly appeared, and he walked in. Who? A gloomy shout came from the dark abode. The black-clothed man stopped and sighed softly. Master, you're so confident in yourself that you didn't even change the method to open the door. Her clear and pleasant voice was completely different from the hoarseness of the past. Master Song Feng paused for a moment, and devil aura suddenly surged in the gloomy cave. It's you. His voice was tense, and every word was full of anger. It's me. Nie Wushang gently waved her sleeves, and the devil aura around her became calm. Sensing her aura, Master Song Feng was shocked and angry. You're actually in the middle stage of nascent soul. How long has it been? Where did you get the technique? He unconsciously touched his Qingquan bag, and the prime devil steel was still there. The prime devil technique in your hands isn't the only one in the world, Nie Wushang said with a smile. Master has been awe-inspiring for so long that he seems to have forgotten to be vigilant. Master Song Feng naturally didn't forget that several great cultivators besieged him in Sandstorm City several decades ago. He was even forced to give up his body and return to Langtu Mountain, always vigilant. But he never expected this bitch to have the guts to come back. Do you think you can challenge me just because you're in the middle stage of nascent soul? I don't dare, Nie Wushang said faintly. That's why I came back before you recovered. You're smart. Master Song Feng sneered. But you're too confident. Really? Nie Wushang didn't care about his attitude at all. She suddenly asked, Master, do you want to know where I got my primordial devil great technique? Master Song Feng didn't answer right away. After a while, a cold snort came from the devil aura. What are you planning? Nie Wushang showed a faint smile. I just want to tell you how narrow-minded you are. As soon as she finished speaking, the devil aura inside the cave seemed to sense Master Song Feng's mood and fluctuated, but the devil aura couldn't get close to her. Master Song Feng seemed to have noticed it, so the devil aura carried a bit of pressure and slowly pressed toward Nie Wushang. It's useless. Nie Wushang always had a smile on her face. She slightly raised her head, carrying with her a contempt that she would never have in the past. Master, do you still not understand? I'm no longer the Nie Wushang who you can bully, who doesn't dare to say a word, do a thing, or show an expression. The gloomy cave and the pitch-black devil aura made her skin look fairer and her face as white as snow. Master Song Feng was in a trance for a moment. He seemed to see traces of another person on her face, and he clenched his teeth. After a long time he asked solemnly, Where did you get your primordial devil great technique? Nie Wushang chuckled. You finally asked. She paused and said, then have you ever thought that since there's a white tiger sacrificial temple, is there an azure dragon, vermilion bird and black tortoise? Master Song Feng was stunned. It wasn't that he didn't think about this back then, but he was already very lucky to find a sacrificial temple. How could he find another one? Could it be that this B***TCH really had such a lucky chance? Thinking of this possibility, Master Song Feng felt very upset. In this world, you're not the only one who practices the primordial devil great technique. As far as I know, there are 2 other people besides us. One was Yang Qingji, and the other was that unlucky Mei Feng, the lord of Descending Star City who was killed. Master, you're indeed a rare cultivation genius in the world. But unfortunately, you went the wrong way at the beginning. When you comprehended the real primordial devil great technique, it was already too late. Nie Wushang's tone was gentle and calm, and she spoke at a moderate speed as if she didn't care about him at all. This made Master Song Feng very unhappy. When did the girl who always trembled with fear beside him become like this? She became someone who dared to challenge him, and became someone he couldn't control. Are you trying to say you went the right way? Nie Wushang raised the corner of her mouth. I don't know if I went the right way, but you definitely went the wrong way. She raised her eyebrows. Do you think it's very unfair? We both practiced the primordial devil great technique, but you still can't have a complete body after giving up your corporeal body and seizing it again, while I'm not affected at all. Master Song Feng's heart stirred slightly, but he just snorted coldly. Nie Wushang ignored him and continued. First, you took a detour before. Second, maybe you didn't notice that the primordial devil great technique doesn't only cultivate primordial devil aura. The gloomy cave was silent. No one knew what Master Song Feng was feeling at the moment. Nie Wushang's voice rang quietly. Master, you've entered the nascent soul realm for so many years, but why haven't you broken through? Is it because your cultivation level isn't high enough, or you can't break through at all? Master Song Feng, who was in the dark, was greatly shocked. He shouted, What did you say? With a chuckle, Nie Wushang said, I didn't understand before, but after practicing the primordial devil great technique and slowly thinking about the past, I realized. Her gaze shifted to the figure in the dark. Master, is it because your corporeal body can't bear the burden after you entered the nascent soul realm? So you cultivated primordial devil aura cloud and tried to replace your corporeal body? Her voice was very calm, but it made Master Song Feng feel an aggressive sharpness, and the content of her words frightened him even more. When did the girl who was by his side, carefully seeking a slim chance of survival, become like this? It seems I guessed right. After waiting for a long time for no answer, Nie Wushang smiled. You comprehended the wrong technique at the beginning, giving the dead aura a chance to corrode your corporeal body. If you made a prompt decision to seize a body to be reborn, you could have cut off all hidden dangers. Unfortunately, you didn't know at that time. By the time you realized something was wrong, it was already too late. The dead aura even corroded your primordial spirit. A smile hung on Nie Wushang's face, but her gaze became sharper and sharper. So, even if you seized a body, you're still a skeleton. As soon as he finished speaking, the devil chi suddenly spread out, forcing away the original aura, revealing a figure sitting cross-legged on a stone platform. This figure was so thin that he could barely hang on to his clothes. When he raised his face, there was a mixture of blood-red rotten flesh and white bones, creating a nauseating scene. Master, long time no see, Nie Wushang said softly. Primordial devil aura surged again, attaching to the skeleton. Before long, it once again turned into a black cloud, looking exactly the same as Master Song Feng's usual appearance. Right after that, a powerful aura spread out and pressed down on Nie Wushang. Nie Wushang's eyes were cold. She made a hand seal with both hands and mobilized the devil aura to resist Master Song Feng's spiritual pressure. You're really her daughter, Master Song Feng said hoarsely. I underestimated you. Nie Wushang's heart stirred, and she slowly asked, Master, it's been so many years. Have you ever thought about my mother? The primordial devil aura in the cave fluctuated imperceptibly. Nie Wushang continued. When you beat and tortured me, Were you thinking about my mother? Shut up. Master Song Feng shouted in a low voice. If you want to die faster, continue talking. Nie Wushang smiled. Do I look a bit like my mother? That's why every time you tortured me, you called me a bitch. Unfortunately, you won't be able to scold my mother. Do you regret killing her so decisively? The devil aura surged more violently, and Master Song Feng's voice rang out in a low voice. What do I regret? That bitch received her retribution long ago. She had an affair behind my back. But unfortunately, that man didn't take responsibility at all. How do you think I found you and your mother? That man told me himself. Nie Wushang's gaze changed and her smile disappeared. But don't worry, I've already killed him. People like him deserve to die. Ha 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 ha. Master Song Feng burst into laughter. The sound of the skeleton and the gloomy tone made it sound like an evil ghost crawling out of hell, making people's hair stand on end. Nie Wushang suddenly curled her lips into a smile, obviously imitating Jing Xingji's actions. She said mockingly, Then I really have to thank you. This kind of man indeed deserves to die. If he's still alive, I'll take his life with my own hands. Her gaze fell on Master Song Feng again. Master, why do you have to do this? With your current appearance, you're neither a human nor a ghost. You can't break through to the late nascent soul realm and advance to the deification realm, so that your primordial spirit can unite with your body and get rid of the death aura. You also can't kill your enemies as you please, so why are you still alive? Your enemies are getting stronger, but you're slowly losing your vitality. Even if I didn't come back, your lifespan would have come to an end in a few hundred years. You'll have no hope in this life. What? You want to attack me with this? Master Song Feng was unmoved. Bitch, you're still too inexperienced. I'm just stating a fact. Nie Wushang put on a pair of boxing gloves and said slowly, You're like the sun setting in the western mountains, about to turn into a tree. Accept your fate. Right after she said that, primordial devil aura gathered in her fists and punched out. The primordial devil aura in the cave surged violently like waves, making it hard to tell who it belonged to. Master Song Feng, who had already turned into a black cloud again, snorted coldly and said, Naive. On the black cloud, Master Song Feng raised a small flag. You rashly ran into someone else's cave, and still want to kill them? He waved the small flag, but there was no movement at all. Master Song Feng was startled, and stared at the small flag in his hand. This was a formation flag without a doubt, and it didn't lose its effect, so why, you're right. Since I dared to come in, how could I not be confident? As Nie Wushang spoke, several magic crystals soaked in death aura flashed in the eye of the formation. Chapter 658. Suddenly, a black demonic cloud burst forth from Langtu Mountain. Its might was magnificent, and its momentum was powerful. Not only did it cover the entirety of Langtu Mountain, it even crossed the southern end of the western mountain range, and extended all the way to the Kunwa mountain range. Inside the Black Devil aura, two people could be vaguely seen confronting each other. One was dressed in black, and looked somewhat petite, while the other was hidden in the black clouds, so their appearances couldn't be seen clearly. Master. Nie Wushang stared fixedly at the person in the black clouds. Admit defeat. Although I've just reached the middle stage, you haven't fully recovered from your serious injuries, and your body isn't compatible. You can't beat me. A cold snort came from the black clouds. Master Song Feng said gloomily, Bitch, do you think I don't know? Even so, your strength is still inferior to mine. You're just using words to provoke me, that's all. As soon as he finished speaking, the black clouds suddenly swelled up. A destructive aura emerged from the originally gloomy darkness, transforming into many terrifying devils that tore at Nie Wushang. Nie Wushang didn't move, but a ribbon burning with black flames appeared in front of her, and went to meet those devils. Upon seeing this, Master Song Feng's black clouds suddenly swayed. Bitch! A voice came from the black clouds. I've raised you for so many years in vain. If you hadn't stolen my treasure, how could I have fallen into this situation? The treasure Nie Wushang used to defend herself was precisely from Master Song Feng. She clenched her teeth behind the ribbon, resisting the invasion of the devils. She sneered and said, Could it be that you still want to settle accounts with me? Such a ridiculous thing doesn't seem like something you'd do, master. He didn't want to talk to her about the kindness of sparing her life and raising her to adulthood. Life wasn't a clear account of income and expenditure. After adding and subtracting, the kindness and enmity could be offset. She only knew that her mother died in his hands, and her life was also ruined in his hands. Such enmity was engraved in her bones day and night. Master Song Feng didn't say anything. In a flash, 3 black lines flew out from the devil clouds and entangled Nie Wushang. A huge black flower suddenly bloomed between Nie Wushang's hands. The petals unfolded and surrounded her whole body. The 3 black lines hit the flower petals and stopped. The 2 sides began to wrestle. Right now, Nie Wushang was under unimaginable pressure. Those 3 black threads were Master Song Feng's secret technique, which took him several hundred years to nurture. Each thread carried the power of primordial devil that could shake one's primordial spirit. Every time he used it, he would consume his own cultivation, so Master Song Feng wouldn't use it easily. But today, not only did he use this technique, but he even used all 3 techniques at the same time. It could be seen that he hated Nie Wushang to the bone. Under the black lines, the flower petals on Nie Wushang's body became fainter and fainter. Gradually, her silhouette was revealed. The moment the petals dissipated and the black thread was about to penetrate her body, Nie Wushang suddenly disappeared. At the same time, an earth-shattering punch smashed onto Master Song Feng's body from the sky. Kacha! The sound of bones being hit rang out, and Master Song Feng fell down. Nie Wushang's silhouette appeared in the void, and she also followed after him. The 2 of them landed on Lang Tu Mountain one after the other. The devil cloud on Master Song Feng's body swayed, and a lot of his devil aura dissipated. B*TCHU. I should thank you for this, Master, Nie Wushang said. The phantom shape-shifting talisman was something you snatched from a nascent soul cultivator back then. Humph. Master Song Feng naturally knew. The Qiankuan bag that was stolen from him back then contained all important spiritual treasures. As a result, not only did he have no treasures to use today, but he was also seriously injured by his own treasures. This little B*TCH. Looking at Nie Wushang's ice-cold face, Master Song Feng gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. Just as she guessed, he was forced to give up his physical body in Sandstorm City, so he had no choice but to take over her body. Back then, he comprehended the wrong cultivation technique, so he didn't take over her body. One reason was that his primordial spirit had already been eroded by the dead aura, so taking over her body wouldn't solve the problem. The other reason was that he left himself some hope. He could only take over someone's body once in his lifetime. One day, he could expel all the dead aura and take over someone's body again. By then, he would have a brand new body and hope to advance to the deification realm. But what about now? If he hadn't discovered this B*TCH had returned to the celestial pole, how could he have gone to Sandstorm City? How could he have been besieged by those old guys? How could he have given up his physical body? How could he have been forced to take over someone's body? How could he have lost all hope of advancing to the deification realm? It was all because of this B*TCH. I really regret that I didn't kill you back then, Master Song Feng said word by word. Nie Wushang laughed. Yeah, if you had killed me back then, how could there have been so many troubles? Unfortunately, it's useless even if you regret it. A devil cloud rose from her hand. Compared to Master Song Feng, Nie Wushang's devil cloud wasn't as strong, but it was also a lot cleaner. It was just pure primordial devil aura. This made Master Song Feng even more resentful. All of this originally belonged to him. Ah! After he lost control of his shout, his devil aura surged up violently like ocean waves. Once Nie Wushang saw this scene, she immediately knew that Master Song Feng had been stimulated to the point of madness by her. He originally didn't cultivate his mental state, and the wrong primordial devil great technique distorted his mind, cutting off his hope of advancing to the deification realm. Coupled with Nie Wushang's repeated blows, he finally fell into a demonic barrier. I'll kill you. A gloomy voice carrying a murderous aura rolled up the devil aura in yellow sand, attacking Nie Wushang all at once. Nie Wushang wasn't stingy at all. Spirit treasures appeared in her hands one after another to resist Master Song Feng's attack. The devil aura fluttered her black clothes, and the yellow sand covered the sky and covered the earth. But she didn't dare to relax in the slightest. Empress Origin was Empress Origin after all. Although she deliberately provoked and looked down on her master with words, she knew in her heart that even if her master was seriously injured and his body wasn't compatible with hers due to the failure of possession, she still couldn't resist him head-on. This was the #1 cultivator in the celestial pole. She knew this better than anyone else. Therefore, she could only drag it out. As long as she dragged it out, the final winner would be her. In the primordial devil aura cloud, yellow sand rustled and rocks rolled down. Langtu Mountain almost collapsed. Nie Wushang clenched her teeth and held on. Magic treasures and spirit talismans were thrown out one by one to meet Master Song Feng's devil cloud, but they exploded one after another. Every time, she had an illusion that she couldn't hold on any longer. But when she thought of the humiliation she suffered for more than 100 years, she held on. The injuries on her body became more and more serious. She held the devil talisman she'd prepared a long time ago, and indirectly replenished her devil aura. What did this count for? She was no longer the Nie Wushang who was bullied and humiliated but couldn't resist. She had friends, she could straighten her back, she could walk under the sun, and she wanted to have her own life. She wanted to personally erase this person, who left a shadow in her heart, and didn't even dare to breathe. She crushed the devil talisman countless times to replenish her devil aura, and threw out countless spiritual treasures to resist the attacks. Finally, the spiritual aura pressure on her body slowly weakened. When the attacks stopped, Nie Wushang's spirit was shaken. She put her hands together, and a huge devil crystal appeared in her hands, flashing with a strange aura of death. With a light flick, the devil crystal flew out. Although it was moving at a slow speed, it quickly appeared next to Master Song Feng. Master Song Feng sneered. "You want to fight back like this? In your dreams?" The corners of Nie Wushang's mouth rose, revealing a sneer. Primordial devil gathered on her fist, and she silently punched out. Master Song Feng waved his hand, and the devil cloud wrapped around him, casually blocking it. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, Nie Wushang's fist penetrated the devil cloud and hit his body. Master Song Feng's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible, how could this be?" Watching him fall heavily, Nie Wushang said faintly, "Master, there are 3,000 Daos, but not all of them are the same." The devil cloud dispersed, revealing a skeleton-like body with a terrifying face and 2 eyes staring at her. He still didn't believe her. "How could this be? You. Why did I lose?" Nie Wushang stared at him. "Do you really want to know?" Master Song Feng didn't close his eyes. Nie Wushang said, "When I set foot on Langtu Mountain, I started to arrange the devil crystal. Master, you probably don't know, but this devil crystal doesn't only have death aura. Everyone in Yunzhong is afraid of it because it has a strange effect. It absorbs people's spiritual essence." Seeing Master Song Feng lying on the ground desperately trying to stand up, Nie Wushang said with pity, "Master, your body is broken. Your primordial spirit is also entangled by death aura, and your own spiritual essence is insufficient. If it weren't for your profound cultivation level, the spiritual essence of your soul wouldn't have been able to support you to survive. I kept provoking you for 2 reasons. One was to make you underestimate the enemy, and the other was to stall for time, so the devil crystal could absorb your spiritual essence." It turns out, a strange expression appeared on Master Song Feng's badly mutilated face. He seemed to be smiling. "You are really her daughter." This was the second time he said this, but his tone was different. The first time, it was resentment, but this time, it was yearning. He said faintly, "That's fine. It's better to die in the hands of your daughter than to die silently, neither human nor ghost. In your next life. What's the use of your current appearance?" Nie Wushang looked at him, feeling for the first time that he was so weak. "Why didn't you tell my mother when she was alive?" Master Song Feng let out a strange laugh and said, "She betrayed me." "That's right. How could there be a woman who would love me with my current appearance?" Was my mother that kind of person? Nia Wushang interrupted him and said coldly. Was the woman you loved deeply, the only woman in your life, that kind of person? Although I don't remember what happened before I was 3 years old, I don't believe it. Master Songfeng's eyes widened. His eyeballs, which almost popped out of his eye sockets, looked more and more disgusting and terrifying. Master, Nia Wushang said softly, you've always kept my mother's stone room in the cave. You didn't allow anyone to step in, didn't let anyone mention her, and even punished senior martial brother when he scolded her. Master, you've always loved my mother, haven't you? He had no lips, and his teeth were exposed. It could be clearly seen that he was trembling. Would the woman you loved so deeply leave you for such a reason? She's been with you for several thousand years. Would she leave you just like that? Nia Wushang said coldly. Instead of blaming her, you'd better blame yourself. Even in your next life, she wouldn't want to meet you like this again. Master Song Feng absent-mindedly looked at the yellow sand all over the sky. More than 1,000 years flashed past his eyes. Stepping on the path of immortality, becoming an ordinary disciple, having his sect destroyed, demonic mountain, fated chances, stone tablets, comprehending the wrong cultivation technique, body festering, Aing. Yes, when he met Aing, he was already in that state. She wouldn't leave him because of this. It was he who doubted her, and pushed her away step by step. As it turned out, his life was a complete failure. He couldn't enter the deification realm, and he destroyed her with his own hands. Such a failed life. Then let it end like this. Chapter 659. When she received Nia Wushang's 10,000 miles sound-transmitting talisman, Mo Tiange was shocked because she only added 2 words, save me, and the location was actually Mount Lang too. She once confirmed from Nia Wushang's wounds that Master Songfeng's secret cave was on Mount Lang Tuesday. I have to go to Mount Lang too, Mo Tiange said after putting down the talisman. What's wrong? She was surprised. Mount Lang 2 isn't an ordinary place. Wushang is asking for help. She's on Mount Lang too, Mo Tiange said succinctly and stood up to prepare. She was startled, but he quickly understood the key point. Wait, let Master go with you. Mo Tiange paused and didn't try to be brave. Okay. Mount Taikong and Xianxing School had established a transporting formation, so Lord Taoist Jinghe came back very quickly. After receiving the message, he returned to the sect in less than 4 hours. Upon hearing Mo Tiange's words, he said without any nonsense, let's go. With a late nascent soul cultivator accompanying her, Mo Tiange was very confident and entered Mount Lang 2 in less than 2 days. Mount Lang 2 was called Mount Lang 2 because it was shaped like a running wolf. The current Mount Lang 2 was unrecognizable. The place where the wolf's head used to be was bare, and the cliff where the tail used to be was also gone. Devil aura pervaded everywhere, and the connected chilling mountain range was the first to suffer. Flowers, plants, and trees were all corroded by the devil aura mixed with dead aura. Lord Taoist Jinghe waved his sleeves, flinging away the yellow sand. He complained, what's old man Songfeng doing? Is he afraid people won't know he's here? Mo Tiange opened the lotus umbrella, isolating the surrounding devil aura. It seems Wushang came back to take revenge. Lord Taoist Jinghe agreed. Mount Lang 2 clearly experienced a great battle. That girl. She must be very strong to be able to fight with old man Songfeng like this. Lord Taoist Jinghe sighed, frowned, and landed somewhere. Master? Come. Lord Taoist Jinghe only said one word. Mo Tiange shut her mouth and soon found something was wrong. After landing on the yellow sand, Lord Taoist Jinghe flicked his sleeves. The sand was blown away, revealing 2 people, or rather, a person and a skeleton. This is old man Songfeng. Lord Taoist Jinghe stared at the skeleton in astonishment. Although its devil aura hadn't dissipated yet, it was obviously dead. Even its body had rotted away. Wushang. Upon seeing the other person, Mo Tiange hastily rushed towards him. Nia Wushang's complexion was deathly pale. Her whole body was stiff as if she was dead, and her devil aura gathered without condensing. This girl is amazing. Lord Taoist Jinghe clicked his tongue in admiration. Even I couldn't kill old man Songfeng, but she actually did it. Emo Tiange didn't have time to express her thoughts. Just as she was about to check Nia Wushang's pulse to examine the condition of her meridians, she suddenly remembered that Nia Wushang was a devil cultivator. She didn't know much about devil cultivators, so she had no way to use her spiritual aura to examine Nia Wushang's meridians. After being stunned for a while, she asked, "Master, what should we do about this?" Emo Tiange's request for help made Lord Daoist Jinghe extremely proud. Master still needs to step in at a critical moment. Just you wait. As he spoke, his eyes flickered. After sweeping a glance at Nia Wushang's body, he retracted his technique and returned to his normal state. She's fine. Although her injuries are a bit heavy, they didn't damage her nascent soul. She'll probably recover after resting for 30 to 50 years. 30 to 50 years? That's not counting external objects. If she has healing medicinal pills like devil cores, she'll probably recover in 10 to 20 years. Emo Tiange nodded. Then let's take her back. Lord Daoist Jinghe didn't answer immediately. He stared at her a few times before he finally said, "Girl, you really treat her differently. She's a devil cultivator, and also old man Songfeng's disciple. You actually want to take her back to the sect to recuperate?" Emo Tiange said, "What else? Do you want to see her die here?" "Master, you don't think it's good?" Lord Daoist Jinghe thought for a while. "It's fine. That old man Jinyang won't dare to have any objections." After a few words, the master and disciple decided to take Nia Wushang back to Xianqing School. When they arrived at Xianqing School, Lord Daoist Jinghe didn't manage anything and went to Kuanzhong City. Emo Tiange opened a stone room and stuffed Nia Wushang inside. She couldn't help devil cultivators recuperate. "How is it?" Qin, she asked after she settled Nia Wushang and returned to the cultivation room. Emo Tiange said, "She killed Master Songfeng." "What?" Qin, she thought he misheard. Emo Tiange repeated herself. "She killed Master Songfeng. So she's seriously injured." Qin, she slowly came to his senses, but he still felt it was unbelievable. "She really killed Master Songfeng? I sensed her cultivation just now. She's just in the middle stage. How did she kill him? I don't know about this. Let's ask her when she wakes up." Emo Tiange thought for a while. After all, she followed Master Songfeng for so many years. Maybe she knows his unknown weakness? Qin, she nodded and pointed at the table. "Let's not talk about her for now. Take a look at this." Emo Tiange saw several things on the table. One was spirit-tempering water. The second was spirit-absorbing powder from the fallen god Abyss. And the third was the crystal they got from the storeroom of a great ancient sect, next to the White Tiger sacrificial temple. Spirit-tempering water aside, they still hadn't figured out how to use the spirit-absorbing powder, let alone the crystal. They asked many people, but no one knew what it was. "What?" Qin, she didn't say anything. He picked up the spirit-tempering water and dripped it on the crystal. There was already a small hole on the crystal. When the spirit-tempering water dripped on it, the hole slowly melted. When the cup of spirit-tempering water was finished, a hole was formed. It turns out it's just a shell. Emo Tiange looked at the top of the crystal, which had been melted by the spirit-tempering water. There was something like mist and water inside. It didn't have any spiritual aura, but it had an extremely mysterious aura. "What's this?" Qin, she glanced at the piles of books and jade slips on the side. "We were misled. We didn't even know what it was. So how could we find out what it was?" After realizing this, I flipped through the ancient books and found it might be something else. "What is it?" "Primal chaos aura," Qin, she said. "The beginning of heaven and earth." Emo Tiange didn't speak for a long time. She was dumbfounded. After a while, she found her voice. "According to what you said, even in the immortal world, primal chaos aura is a top-grade treasure. How could it fall into the human world?" Qin, she shook his head. "It's meaningless to investigate this. Take another look." As he spoke, he took several spirit stones and threw them into the crystal. Then, the gas melted at a speed visible to the naked eye and disappeared without a trace. "Just like this, almost everything can be melted." "Really?" Emo Tiange's expression became serious. She took out several unimportant materials from her Qianquan ring and threw them into the crystal. Sure enough, All of them disappeared without a trace. After watching for a while, she suddenly said, "Spirit-sucking powder can absorb any spell, and this primal chaos aura can melt anything. What would happen if I put them together?" She smiled. "That's exactly what I was thinking, but you came back before I could try it. Then let's try it quickly." She nodded. Seeing that the crystal enveloping the primal chaos aura had somewhat healed, he took the spirit-tempering water and melted it again. Turns out this thing can grow automatically. Emotienga seemed to have understood something. No wonder it can be used to contain primal chaos aura. After melting the outer crystal, she carefully wrapped some primal chaos aura with his spiritual aura, making it float in the air. Then he sprinkled some spirit-sucking powder on it. The sizzling sound was endless, as if it was boiling and burning. The spirit-sucking powder and the primal chaos aura entangled and devoured each other, as if they were fighting fiercely. The two of them stared at it without blinking. Before long, the sound gradually weakened. From the bottom to the top, the primal chaos aura became transparent like ice crystals. In the end, it became a crystal. After a long silence, Emotienga knocked the outer shell containing the primal chaos aura. "So this thing is made of spirit-sucking powder?" She also touched it. He felt there was no difference no matter how he looked at it. When he tried to pour his spiritual aura into it, he suddenly thought of something. "What's wrong?" Emotienga noticed his strange expression and hurriedly asked. She didn't answer immediately. After spending some effort to take back his spiritual aura, he said, "Spirit-sucking powder can absorb spiritual aura, and primal chaos aura can dissolve everything. The combination of these two is simply a sharp defensive weapon." Emotienga knocked the crystal and asked, "You mean it can be made into a defensive magic weapon?" She nodded. "Yes. We originally thought spirit-sucking powder would be the best to make a defensive magic weapon. Now with the addition of primal chaos aura, the effect is more than doubled." Emotienga thought for a while and said, "I think it's good to make an offensive magic weapon." "Oh." Emotienga touched an ordinary magic weapon and threw it into the primal chaos aura. Soon, the magic weapon disappeared without a trace. She looked at it for a while and finally understood. "You mean, which magic weapon is so domineering? It's a pity not to attack." She stared at her for a long time and said, "Tienga, you seem different from before." "Different?" Emotienga raised her eyebrows in surprise. "What's different?" "It seems a bit sharper," he said. He smiled as he recalled. "In the past, you were mostly on the defensive, cautious, and advanced step by step. But now, you also have an indomitable momentum." Emotienga thought about it carefully. She seemed to be right, so she said with a smile, "Maybe I was influenced by you guys? Isn't this better?" She answered with a smile. He looked at the crystal in his hand and thought for a while, then said, "I really can't figure out how to refine this thing. How about I go to Kuanzhong City? I can ask my senior martial brothers and sisters for advice and work together. In addition, I can also use the trade fair to communicate with other people. Maybe I can find other clues." Emotienga thought about it and agreed. "With the transporting formation, it's enough for me and senior martial brother Lingxi to guard the sect. It shouldn't be a problem for you to go there for a month." "Okay." She put away the crystal he condensed, took a tube of spirit-tempering water, and a small amount of spirit-absorbing powder, and put them in his universe ring. "I'll go now." "So fast?" Emotienga was surprised. "Go early and come back early." She paused, then reminded her in a low voice, "You have to pay more attention to Nie Wushang now. Her identity is sensitive, and it won't be good if it gets out. In addition, although your friendship with her isn't bad, she's a devil cultivator and also Master Songfeng's disciple. It's said that Master Songfeng's crazy and vengeful personality is also influenced by her cultivation technique." "I'm really a bit worried." "I know," Emotienga said rationally. "I've long prepared for it. I arranged a lot of defensive formations in the stone room, where she recuperated. Don't worry." She nodded and said no more. He put away the things, left the cave, and went to Kuanzhong City. Chapter 660. 5 days later, Nie Wuxiang finally woke up. As soon as she woke up, she saw Emo Tiange sitting next to her. Tiange! Nie Wuxiang was relieved to see her. I'm finally alive. Emo Tiange saw that her face was still pale, so she asked with concern. Are you okay? How could you be so rash as to go to Langtu Mountain alone? No matter how seriously injured Master Songfeng is, he's still a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. Even my master might not be able to kill him. You're alone. Nie Wuxiang smiled and said, I'm afraid I don't have time. He doesn't have much lifespan left, and his injuries are so serious. What if he dies before I act? Besides, I'm fine, aren't I? Fine. Emo Tiange snorted. You call this fine? Even with miraculous pills, it'll take at least 10 or 20 years for your injuries to heal. It's only 10 or 20 years. Nie Wuxiang was very calm. I'm not even 300 years old yet, so my lifespan is very long. What's the big deal if I only spend a few dozen years? You're really... Emo Tiange was speechless. All right. Seeing her unhappy expression, Nie Wuxiang smiled flatteringly and clasped her hands together. I'm still alive, so don't argue with me about this. By the way, don't you want to know how I defeated my master? She successfully aroused Emo Tiange's curiosity. Why? Nie Wuxiang said slowly. My master's cultivation level is profound and he's powerful. It's definitely impossible to defeat him head-on. However, he has a weakness. He once practiced the wrong cultivation technique. I remember you once told me that there was a person who looked very similar to my master after he cultivated. In fact, my master didn't cultivate primordial devil aura, but instead, he cultivated death aura. However, he was much smarter, so he discovered something was wrong and quickly comprehended the real cultivation technique. But his body was already damaged, and the death aura invaded his primordial spirit. So with his current state, no matter how high his cultivation level was, he couldn't advance to the deification realm. The nascent soul was formed by the fusion of the golden core, and part of the primordial spirit's power. However, the soul formation stage required the nascent soul to go through thousands of tempering and merge with the primordial spirit and the body. No matter which part of the nascent soul, primordial spirit and body, nothing could go wrong. For the corporeal body, even if it was damaged, it could be regenerated with the power of the nascent soul. However, if it was contaminated by impurities, it had to be removed. It was the same for the nascent soul. If it was contaminated by the death qi, it could never merge with the corporeal body and the nascent soul to advance to the deity transformation stage. Exactly. Nie Wuxiang nodded. You've also noticed, right? Could he still be considered a human? If it wasn't for his profound cultivation, he would have long been tortured into a corpse by the death qi. Emo Tiange recalled her behavior in Carefree Valley and suddenly understood. Back then, you used devil crystals to absorb dead aura just to deal with your master? Nie Wuxiang nodded then sighed. When I saw the magic crystal back then, I faintly felt that it would be a breakthrough. My master is too powerful. Ordinary methods can't deal with him at all. Only the devil crystals can absorb one's essence energy and have a unique effect. They're a completely different type of method, making it impossible for him to defend against them. Is it the death qi or the essence qi? Why don't I understand? Emo Tiange was a bit confused. Since he's plagued by the death qi is his greatest enemy, isn't it? Nie Wuxiang shook her head. The death qi is indeed his greatest enemy, but it's hard to see its effect in the short term. Besides, with his cultivation level, he can successfully suppress the death qi, so there's no way to take his life. Then I used the devil crystals to absorb the death qi for two reasons. One was to use the death qi to destroy the Immortals Cave's formation, and the other was to numb him. My master has seen a lot of death qi, so he didn't take it seriously and neglected the real effect of the devil crystals. His body was already weak, and his primordial spirit was trapped. He should have been a dead man long ago. This shows that his soul power is very weak, and he's only relying on his powerful cultivation level to support himself. I used the devil crystals to absorb his essence energy and disperse his soul power. That way, I could have won without a fight. Emo Tiange thought about what she said over and over again. Eventually, she sighed and said, "You've really racked your brains to make such a good move." Nie Wuxiang smiled bitterly. "If it wasn't because I couldn't defeat him, why would I have to do this? I can only blame myself for being too weak." "Blame yourself for having too little time." Emo Tiange shook her head and said, "With your qualifications, advancing to the late stage of the nascent soul realm is only a matter of time. And it's not impossible for you to advance to the deification realm. It's just that you're not sure he can wait until that moment." "Yes." Nie Wuxiang looked a bit absent-minded. "Master has lived for too long." The two of them looked at each other in silence. They only felt that time was passing. No matter how powerful a cultivator was, there would always be a moment when he or she would disappear, and the path to immortality was still far in the future. After a long time, Emo Tiange said, "What's your next plan?" Nie Wuxiang thought for a while, then shook her head. "Nothing." Emo Tiange heaved a sigh. "How about you stay here with me?" Nie Wuxiang was stunned and hastily waved her hand. "I'm a devil cultivator, and Xianqing School is a Dao school." I'm not asking you to join Xianqing School," Emo Tiange said with a smile. "In any case, I'm a nascent soul lord Taoist now. It shouldn't be a problem for me to ask a friend to stay here for a long time, right?" Nie Wuxiang thought about it carefully. There were only a few places she could go. Yunzhong was in chaos. The current situation was confusing, and there were killings everywhere. Xiaoyang, this place was even more chaotic. Without strength, people could only be trampled on. In the Celestial Pole, she was Master Songfeng's disciple, so this matter wasn't difficult to investigate. Originally, Langtu Mountain was secretive enough, but now it was exposed. She was seriously injured and couldn't fight with others, so it was best for her to find a safe place to slowly recuperate. Thinking about it this way, Xianqing School was really the best choice. First of all, Xianqing School was very powerful now. Whether it was in the Celestial Pole or Yunzhong, no one would come to Xianqing School's encampment to cause trouble. Second, Emo Tiange was her most trusted friend. She saved her from danger many times, so there was no one more trustworthy than her in this world. Nie Wuxiang thought for a while. After confirming it, she agreed. "Okay, thank you." Emo Tiange waved her hand. "There's no need to thank me between us." She took out a jade talisman. "You can recuperate here. If you need anything, use this talisman to inform the supervising disciples here." Nie Wuxiang took the jade talisman. "Then I won't be polite." The two of them talked about their experiences in the past few years, as well as the problem of cultivating and recuperating before Emo Tiange left the stone room to let Nie Wuxiang rest. Qin Shi's trip took 2 months before he returned. As soon as he returned to his cave, Emo Tiange asked, "What took you so long? Do you have any clues?" Qin Shi said, "Nowadays wars are frequent. I didn't go at the right time, and there aren't many cultivators in Kuanzhong City. Senior Marshal Brother Xinjiang said there would be a large-scale trade fair in a month or so, so he told me to wait. I thought Kuanzhong City was a trade city, so there might be some people with special abilities who knew something, so I agreed. In these 2 months, I collected some information. After Senior Marshal brothers and sisters came back, they also gave us a lot of ideas." As he said that, he took out a small bag and poured out mini jade slips. After a rough look, there were about 30 to 50 of them. Emo Tiange was dumbfounded. Qin Shi smiled helplessly. "Not all of them are real clues. I wrote down all the similar ones." He picked out one of the jade slips and said, "This is what Master and the others concluded after discussing for us to refer to." Emo Tiange looked at the jade slips one by one. After a long time, she finally finished reading them. She frowned slightly and said, "It takes time to experiment with these things. They can't be decided in a short time. And so we're busy." The two of them moved the things into the virtual sky world. Qin Shi asked, "Are you all right in these 2 months? How's Nie Wuxiang?" "She's recuperating, so I left her here." Emo Tiange roughly described their conversation and said, "I think she's clear-headed, so she should be fine. I also asked her, and she said the reason why Master Song Feng became like that was because he practiced that wrong cultivation technique. Since great primordial devil technique was put together with the 5 spirits sacrifice temple, it must be a cultivation technique that far surpasses the present world. So it's impossible for it to have this kind of shortcoming. As long as you comprehend it correctly, there won't be any problems. That's good. He was just taking precautions. Since he left her here, he had to be on guard. Right, Jing Xingji is also in Kuanzhong City. He told me something. Oh. Mo Tiange was very interested in Jing Xingji's current situation. What did Venerable Swordsman Stillwater say to you? Qin Shi saw that she really wanted to laugh, so he said helplessly, "Don't laugh at him. He's already very serious now." Very serious, Jing Xingji. Mo Tiange nodded seriously, then burst out laughing again. It's so hard to imagine. When she was done laughing, Qin Shi said, "Jing Xingji told me he found clues about the Qilin." Huh. Mo Tiange was surprised. So fast. What kind of clues? Where did he get them? Qin Shi sat down at the table, fiddled with the jade slip, and asked, "Do you still remember the Qilin the Spirit Beast Sect's founder's mount?" Of course I remember. Spirit Beast Sect uses the Qilin as their sect's emblem. All the cultivators in the Celestial Pole knew about this. Jing Xingji said he accidentally found records about the Spirit Beast Sect's founder's mount in the sect's library. On a whim, he looked for Hua Lingyun from Spirit Beast Sect and asked for some information. Mo Tiange said with surprise, "How could they easily tell others about the founder's mount?" Was Jing Xingji deceived? Qin Shi smiled faintly. "I don't think so. He paid a price that Hua Lingyun couldn't refuse." What was it? The white tiger's breath in his hand. Qin Shi said. He showed Hua Lingyun the white tiger sword and gave him some of the white tiger's breath. Mo Tiange nodded thoughtfully. For Spirit Beast Sect, this is really an irresistible temptation. Who said it wasn't? Hua Lingyun told him the origin of the Qilin mount in detail, on the spot, then went back to closed-door meditation. Mo Tiange laughed, then grabbed him and asked, "Does this Qilin have anything to do with the Qilin we're looking for?" Jing Xingji speculated that it should. Qin Shi shook his head gently. There's still too little information. Moreover, the world changed not long ago. So many descriptions can't be accurate anymore. We need more time to confirm. Mo Tiange breathed a sigh of relief. There's no hurry. Wushang still needs a long time to heal. Quickly tell me, where did the Spirit Beast Sect's Qilin come from? Qin Shi took a sip of tea, then said, neither too fast nor too slow. In Yunzhong. Huh. This location gave Mo Tiange a headache. Do we have to go to Yunzhong? Chapter 661. To put it bluntly, Yunzhong was full of enemies. During the Black Tortoise incident last time, all the cultivators in Yunzhong stood against them. It was hard to find someone who didn't have a grudge against them. It's in the original Yunzhong, Qin Shi said calmly. After the world changed, Spirit Beast Sect sent people to investigate. It's not in the place described in the ancient records, so Jing Xingji suspects that the world changed the location of Qilin. After a pause, he smiled and said, "There's no hurry. Even if we have a clue, it'll take a long time to investigate. Besides, the clue is so simple." Jing Xingji also said that according to the ancient records of Spirit Beast Sect, this place has a strong aura of divine beasts. But the founder of Spirit Beast Sect didn't see the sacrificial temple, so he can't be sure it's the Qilin sacrificial temple we're looking for. Mo Tiange nodded. That's right. If the Qilin sacrificial temple was so easy to find, it wouldn't have been undiscovered for so many years. Did Jing Xingji say how to investigate next? Do you need our help? Qin Shi shook his head. He said he'll take care of this. Take care of it. Mo Tiange smiled. Poor child. You've never experienced the power of a nascent soul venerable swordsman, right? Exactly. Qin Shi also smiled. This is good. We have time to refine magic weapons. Mo Tiange agreed. It's best if we succeed, before we find the Qilin sacrificial temple. After that, the two of them devoted themselves to refining magic weapons. First, they sorted out the clues they collected one by one, discarding the useless ones and keeping the useful ones. Then they analyzed and experimented with the suggestions of the nascent soul lord Taoists. This was easy to say but difficult to do. The primal chaos aura and spirit-absorbing powder were too mysterious and difficult to make progress. In the end, the two of them had to give up and concentrate on understanding the material of the primal chaos crystal. This was the simplest and stupidest method. With the development of tool refining, there were many ways to identify materials. Tool refiners usually used these methods to identify materials before starting to refine tools. Not only did it require enough perception, but it also required a lot of time. Usually, an ordinary material would take a few months to understand, and the rarer ones might even take a few years. The primal chaos crystal obviously belonged to the latter. The two of them had no choice. For this kind of supreme material, refining methods were completely useless. Time flowed by quickly like water. Nie Wuxiang was recuperating, Jing Xingji was investigating the Qilin sacrificial temple, and Mo Tiange and Qin Shi were refining magic weapons. Everyone was concentrating on doing their own things. 10 years later, the Immortal Alliance finally defeated the demon cultivators and began to recuperate. Zhenyang, Miaoyi, and Xianin returned to their sects, leaving Jinghe and Huayan to guard Quanzhong City. Next, everyone either cultivated or traveled. The Celestial Pole faction was peaceful. Mo Tiange couldn't help but wonder whether her deduction of the world in chaos was wrong or not. Of course, in the depths of her heart, she hoped that she was wrong. The end of the human world, and the extinction of humanity, was something that no one liked. In the past few years, Xianqing School's development speed had shocked the entire Celestial Pole. With enough medicinal pills, the number of core formation disciples soared. Every few dozen years someone would form their gold core. Right now, the number of core formation cultivators at Xianqing School was number 1 in the Celestial Pole, and it was difficult to surpass them. Under them were Yi Jinji, Shui Linbua, and Sang Yushu, 3 core formation disciples. Although Yi Jinji's spiritual root was ordinary, his comprehension wasn't bad, and he had been taught by them since he was a child. As long as he broke through his mental state, with the help of spiritual herbs, it wouldn't be difficult for him to form his gold core. Shui Linbua's spiritual root could be considered poor. Fortunately, she had a firm heart, so she could reach the foundation-building realm. Logically speaking, the possibility of her forming her gold core was almost zero. For the sake of Shui Linbua's conscientiousness in taking care of the cave for so many years, Mo Tiange used medicinal pills to help her advance to the core formation realm, which could be regarded as helping Shui Linbua and Yi Jinji. However, her cultivation path was almost over. As for Sang Yushu, except for her poor spiritual root, she had no shortcomings in other aspects. With Qin Shi's guidance, after so many years of accumulation, forming her gold core could be said to be a matter of course. Qin Shi even thought he had a chance to enter the nascent soul realm. As for the others, Yiwen and Shisu, they weren't Mo Tiange's real disciples. Their strengths weren't cultivation, they just went with the flow. Xie Jingyi and Qi Yunshu had good conditions in all aspects, but they were still young. If they wanted to form their gold core, it would take at least several decades of tempering. In recent years, the most dazzling star in Xianqing School was Mo Xiaoyang, the disciple accepted by Lord Taoist Lingxi. Because Mo Tiange saved his life, he changed his surname to Mo. After being accepted as Lord Taoist Lingxi's disciple for more than 30 years, he formed his gold core at the age of 80. He was only a little later than Qin Shi, and a little earlier than Mo Tiange. For a time, Mo Xiaoyang seemed to have become a genius of the new generation in Xianqing School. He was often mentioned, and even compared to Mo Tiange and Qin Shi. Mo Tiange felt this wasn't a good sign. It wasn't good to blindly pursue speed and cultivation. Besides, such comments were tantamount to praising someone to death. She specifically mentioned this to Qin Shi. Qin Shi deeply agreed, and found an opportunity to hint a few words to Lord Taoist Lingxi. How could Lord Taoist Lingxi not know? He said he was prepared, so the two of them didn't say anything more. In any case, Mo Xiaoyang was Lord Taoist Lingxi's disciple, so it wasn't good for them to meddle too much. Besides, they also had their own disciples. It was just that Mo Xiaoyang was brought into Xianqing School by them, so he had karma with them. so they were more concerned about him. After more than 30 years, Nie Wushang's injuries were finally completely healed, and even the hidden dangers were removed. They also had a preliminary understanding of the materials of chaos crystals, and started to refine magic weapons. At this time, Jing Xingji suddenly came to visit them. After returning from Yunzhong, Jing Xingji returned to Gujin sect. In the past few decades, they only met once when Qin Shi went to Kuanzhong City. At other times, they communicated through summoning talismans. Mo Tiange was very uncomfortable to suddenly see Jing Xingji. Jing Xingji was wearing the cyan sword robe of Gujin sect's nascent soul venerable swordsman. The patterns on it were complicated and showed his nobility. His hair was tied neatly in a crown. As soon as he entered Mount Taikong, he pretended to greet them. Fellow Taoists, long time no see. How have you been? Mo Tiange simply couldn't look at Jing Xingji like this. In the end, Qin Shi was calm. He casually said, "Fellow Taoist, you're still as elegant as ever." He then welcomed Jing Xingji into his cave. Nie Wushang was stunned when she saw him. She then said rudely, "Why are you so stubborn?" Jing Xingji's face instantly darkened. Mo Tiange held back her laughter and tried to smooth things over. All right. We haven't seen each other for so many years. Let's be more friendly. You're the first one who wants to laugh." Jing Xingji didn't appreciate it at all and glared at her fiercely. Mo Tiange spread her hands to express her innocence, but the corners of her mouth kept rising. Jing Xingji sighed again. "I have no choice. Although Marshal Uncle Yuanying didn't say it, he doesn't like frivolous people. Alas, returning to the sect really isn't free. You finally know you're frivolous." Nie Wushang made sarcastic remarks on the side. Seeing that Jing Xingji's face was about to completely darken, Mo Tiange hurriedly said, "That's enough. Wushang, don't provoke him. Fellow Taoist Jing, you didn't come to bicker, did you?" "Of course not," Jing Xingji said sternly. "I came because I got some definite news about the Qilin." It had been more than 30 years since they first found clues about the Qilin. During these 30 years, Jing Xingji would send some news from time to time. In the beginning, he also sent people to Yunzhong to search. However, they weren't looking for the sacrificial temple. They were looking for the traces of the Spirit Beast sect's founder. According to the ancient records of the Spirit Beast sect, the founder once traveled the world. When he passed by a place, he obtained a spiritual beast similar to the Qilin. According to Hua Lingyun, this wasn't a real Qilin, but a descendant of a divine beast with the Qilin's bloodline. Gujin sect disciples went deep into Yunzhong and inquired about the legends of various places. Then, they combined it with the records of the Spirit Beast sect to find useful information and confirmed that there used to be a strong Qilin's aura in a certain place in Yunzhong. That Qilin mount was born there. However, this Qilin's aura gradually disappeared over the years. By the time the world changed, it had completely disappeared. The clues were cut off. Helpless, Jing Xingji tried to bribe Hua Lingyun again. This time, he only got some fragmented information. No matter how he investigated, he couldn't find anything. Venerable swordsman Yuanying told him that the Qilin was the symbol of the Spirit Beast sect. If they wanted to find it, they would have found it long ago. It was only because they couldn't find it that Hua Lingyun told him this information so bluntly. When Jing Xingji heard this, he almost carried his sword and went to the Spirit Beast sect to cause trouble. It took him a lot of effort to restrain himself. What happened next? What did you find? This time I didn't find it. I deduced it. Jing Xingji had a complacent look on his face. With a wave of his sleeve, virtual images of maps of various continents appeared in front of the four people. Look, these are the current locations of the continents. Let's mark the four spirits' sacrificial temple on them. He flicked his finger. First, 2 gold and black dots appeared in the westernmost Fengsha city and the northern part of Yunzhong. These are the locations of the sacrificial temples that we can confirm at the moment: White Tiger and Black Tortoise. He flicked his finger again. 2 green and red dots lit up in the easternmost Fengsha city and the southern part of Yunzhong. The Azure Dragon is in the Eastern Sea, and the Vermilion Bird is in the Sea of Returning Ruins, right? Everyone nodded. They didn't understand what he meant. Jing Xingji smiled mysteriously. But have you thought about it? The Eastern Sea and the Sea of Returning Ruins might not have moved with the continents. Everyone was stunned. Mo Tiange stared at the virtual map and looked at the locations of the Eastern Sea and the Sea of Returning Ruins. She suddenly stood up in astonishment. So that's how it is. Jing Xingji held his teacup and nodded complacently. That's how it is. Mo Tiange swiped her finger. The red dot in the southern part of Yunzhong moved down and stopped at the current location of Yuanzhou. The green dot in the easternmost part of the celestial pole went all the way east. The 4 dots stopped. Although they weren't symmetrical, they were clearly divided into north, south, east, and west. See, Jing Xingji said, north, south, east, and west coincide with the azure dragon in the east, the vermilion bird in the south, the white tiger in the west, and the black tortoise in the north. Qin Shi's gaze moved and stopped in the middle. Since they all coincide, how could the Qilin be an exception? It's naturally in the middle. The yellow dot moved slowly and finally stopped in the middle, Xiaoyang. After realizing this, I took the map from before the world changed and compared it with it. Take a look again. Jing Xingji turned his palm, and a map with a slightly different color slowly overlapped with the virtual map. The yellow dot representing the Qilin appeared in the western part of the clouds. See? Jing Xingji smiled. This is the location where the founder of Spirit Beast sect obtained the Qilin. So that's how it is. Mo Tiange sat back down and calmed herself down. So the Qilin is in the current Xiaoyang. Yes, but also no. Jing Xingji withdrew the virtual map and drank slowly for a while. After enjoying the feeling of being a master enough, he said, look, the white tiger and the black tortoise on the continent have all moved with the continent. The azure dragon and the vermilion bird haven't moved because they're actually on the sea. What about the Qilin? Look at the map. It's obviously always been on the continent. Why? Nie Wushang thought for a while then said, the founder of Spirit Beast sect didn't really see the Qilin. What he saw was only the Qilin's breath. Maybe the Qilin isn't on the continent at all? Jing Xingji just wanted to pretend to be a master, but Nie Wushang ruined it. He said very reluctantly, yes, I sent people to Xiaoyang. Sure enough, they didn't find any trace of the Qilin on the continent until they reached the bottom of the sea. Chapter 662. Now that they'd found the Qilin sacrificial temple, it was time to leave. Both Mo Tiange and Qin Shi thought they'd figured out how to refine the chaos crystal, so they should refine the magic weapon first. Nie Wushang said she wanted to go to Langtu Mountain to find what Master Songfeng left behind. Jing Xingji didn't have much to do, so he took over the task of contacting Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe. The 4 of them went their separate ways and agreed to go to Xiaoyang together after the matter was finished. The refining process of the chaos crystal wasn't smooth. Perhaps because the primal chaos aura was too mysterious, the chaos crystal shattered from time to time during the refining process, causing a huge consumption of spirit-absorbing powder. The magic weapon had just taken shape when it was used up. After a discussion, the 2 of them decided to go to Fallen God Abyss again to collect spirit-absorbing powder. They'd been there once, so they were familiar with the route this time. Fallen God Abyss was still the same. There were yellow rocks everywhere, and not even a blade of grass grew. Gales swept by with great power. They came down from Fallen God Abyss and were still sucked into the vortex, but this time, they were prepared, so they weren't affected much. Along the canyon, they slowly entered the cave where they found the spirit-absorbing powder and used spirit-quenching water to extract the powder from the bluish-gray rocks. The larger pieces were the size of a finger and looked like milky white jade, while the smaller pieces were like powder. The 2 of them spent several days and almost melted the entire mountain wall. Mo Tiange suddenly stopped. Come and see. Upon hearing this, Qin Shi turned around to look. There was a trace of metal in the depths of the mountain wall, but he couldn't tell what kind of metal it was. What's this? Qin Shi touched it. Let's see. Okay. Mo Tiange entered the virtual sky world, took out a large bucket of spirit-quenching water, and poured it on the stone wall without hesitation. Under the effect of the spirit-quenching water, all the spirit-absorbing powder was collected into their bags. Finally, a round object fell down. This object was about 3 feet in diameter and was dark in color. One side was a round frame, the other side was slightly bulging like a turtle shell, and the bottom was a twig-like base. She turned it over, brushed off the dust on it, and saw that the bulging side was engraved with extremely complicated patterns. Emotienga stared at them for a while. She felt these patterns were extremely profound and seemed to contain endless changes. Yin and yang, the 5 elements, life and death, and even the myriad of the mortal world, innumerable karma. Tienga, a heavy shout rang in her ears, causing her to wake up with a start. What's going on? She asked. Emotienga touched her chest with lingering fear and said, This thing is terrible. It definitely doesn't belong to our world. Oh. She took a careful look. Although he also felt it was mysterious, his feelings weren't as deep as hers. Emotienga pointed at the patterns and explained, Look, these patterns contain yin and yang, the 5 elements, karma, the world of mortals, and even the 6 paths of reincarnation. As she explained them one by one, Shi's expression became more and more solemn. It's actually so mysterious. You don't know much about formations, so your understanding isn't as deep as mine. I'm sure that even in the ancient times, there wouldn't be such a mysterious item. It must be an item of immortals, or even gods. Emotienga's tone was resolute and decisive. Her formations were inherited from the Xuanji Formation Book and Mo Yaoqing. Both of them were the peak of formations in the present world. There were also many books from the distant past era, and even the virtual sky world. It could be said that she was the person who had the most understanding of ancient formations in the present world. She was sure that these patterns weren't the work of cultivators. At the very least, they were an item of immortals. She recalled the legend of the fallen god Abyss and said in a low voice, 2 deities fought in the westernmost area. One of them hacked down with his sword and formed the fallen god Abyss. I'm afraid the deities in the westernmost legend weren't cultivators, but real immortals. As long as humans don't go extinct, the things that happened in the past will be passed down to the world, through all kinds of legends. Emotienga stared at the things on the ground for a long time and said, Look, doesn't this look like a mirror? She nodded and suddenly smiled. It's just a bit too big. This is clearly a hand mirror. How big would a person have to be to use such a mirror? Emotienga smiled. Since it's a magic weapon, it can naturally be as big as one wants. This mirror must have been damaged during the fight, so it maintained its size during the fight. Shi naturally knew this, but he was just joking. After joking, he muttered, It seems that the fallen god Abyss is really the battlefield of 2 immortals. The so-called spirit-sucking powder is actually the material of this magic weapon. Yes, no wonder we couldn't find spirit-sucking powder, even after searching through ancient books and records. It turns out it's from an immortal's magic weapon. As she spoke, Emotienga's imagination ran wild. Since this is the place where immortals fought, could there be other treasures? Quick, let's go look for them. She pulled Qinshi and wanted to dig 3 feet into the ground. Qinshi laughed. What do you think an immortal's magic weapon is? Is it everywhere? Just look for it. It's not like we'll lose anything. All right. It was indeed a pity to let go of this opportunity. The fallen god Abyss was full of strange gales, and they couldn't use their divine sense to the fullest. Apart from digging 3 feet into the ground, there seemed to be no other way. Emotienga simply released the 4 spiritual beasts and the stone from the virtual sky world. Dig! The 4 spiritual beasts all had different expressions when they heard that. Xiaofeng reacted quickly and immediately said, Then I'll go over there. Xiaofan answered obediently, Oh, then where should I dig? Feifei's expression darkened. He looked at Xiaofeng and then at Xiaofan. But in the end, he restrained himself and said, Stone, let's go. Since the spiritual beasts transformed one after another, he had lost his unique overlord status. Fortunately, he had Stone. No matter what he did, Stone would always be his staunchest supporter. Xiaohui said, Master, I can't do this kind of thing. Why don't you let me follow you? Its black eyes moved back and forth with a pleading look on its face. Emotienga's eyebrows twitched and she said, Follow Xiaofeng. Remember, listen to Xiaofeng. Oh, Xiaohua's expression darkened. While she wasn't paying attention, it rolled its eyes at Xiaofeng and said, "Let's go." Xiaofeng smiled and pretended not to see it. She led Xiaohua away, but when she turned around, her hands were clenched. How could Mo Tiange not know about the turbulent undercurrents among spiritual beasts? Xiaohua liked to play, but Xiaofeng always disciplined it. Therefore, after Xiaofeng transformed into a human being in the 8th rank, Xiaohua would trip her up from time to time. Unfortunately, her level was too low, so she couldn't play against Xiaofeng. It was foreseeable that when she came back later, she would cry and complain again. "Xiaofan, follow us." Oh. In comparison, Xiaofan was an obedient child who did what she said. The 2 of them and 4 spiritual beasts, no 5 of them. They scraped the ground of all the places they could go in the fallen god abyss. But they didn't find any magic weapons. They only found some traces of fights of magical powers. "Tiange, don't you think something's wrong?" Mo Tiange didn't understand what he meant. "Am I? What's wrong?" Qin thought for a while, then shook his head. "Maybe it's just an illusion. I always feel that this place is too clean. Except for this magic weapon embedded in the mountain wall, there's nothing else left." "Do you mean someone else came here?" "It's hard to say." Qin couldn't figure it out, so he didn't mention it. "Forget it. Even if there was, we can't trace it. Let's go back." They recalled all the spiritual beasts into the virtual sky world and set off for Xianqing School. A few days ago, Nie Wushang came back from Mount Lang Tuesday. She said she had a great harvest and wanted to enter closed-door meditation to prepare some life-saving techniques. Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe just got in touch and said they would come back after some time. This just happened to give them time to refine their magic treasures. The 2 of them didn't delay and also entered closed-door meditation to refine magic weapons without stopping. This time, it went smoothly. With enough spirit-absorbing powder and the pattern on the mirror frame, Mo Tiange was inspired a lot. After several months, the new magic weapon was finally produced. After testing it in the virtual sky world, the 2 of them were very satisfied with the new magic weapon. It could attack and defend, was invisible and intangible, and was impossible to guard against. Based on the material, this magic weapon could be regarded as a top magic weapon in the world. This treasure matches your fighting style very well. With this treasure, your strength won't be inferior to mine. Qin put the magic weapon named Chaotic Heavenly Transformation Box in her hand. Mo Tiange wasn't polite. She knew her advancement to the middle stage was simply because she took advantage of Hu Pe. So her strength didn't improve much. In terms of cultivation level, she was now in the same realm as Qin, but in a fight of magical powers, she was inferior to him. Moreover, Qin had always been focused. For him, the vermilion bird bow was enough. More magic weapons would only distract him. When they came out of closed-door meditation, Gujian Sex sent news that Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe had arrived. Mo Tiange and Qin immediately went to Lord Daoist Jinyang's Immortal's cave to inform him. They had mentioned this before, so Lord Daoist Jinyang already knew about it. He said, "Shoujing Qingwei, when you went to Yunzhong, the sect couldn't spare any manpower. Now that the situation is good, I want Lingxi to go with you. Are you willing?" "Of course," Qin said. "Our trip isn't treasure hunting. The more manpower, the better." Lord Daoist Jinyang nodded. "In fact, I'm a bit worried about the 3 of you going, but Xianin and Miaoi have been busy with the sect for decades and are now in closed-door meditation, so I can't disturb them. Lingxi is on the verge of a breakthrough. It'll be good for him to go with you." Qin bowed. "Yes, we'll definitely work together with junior martial brother Lingxi and watch out for each other." Lord Daoist Jinyang smiled gently. "In the tens of thousands of years since our sect was established, our Xianqing school may not be the strongest, but we've always been the most harmonious. This is the foundation of our sect, so I believe you'll all return safely." After encouraging them, Lord Daoist Jinyang said, "Junior martial brothers Jing and Huayan brought back some things from Quanzhong City. In addition, I also have something for you." He then gave them a Qianquan bag. Qin took it, looked at it, and said in surprise, "Senior martial brother Jinyang, this? Take it with ease." Lord Taoist Junyang looked at them with a smile. You're the hope of the new generation of Xianqing school. You've sacrificed so much for the future of the sect, so it's worth it. Yes. Out of thousands of words he finally said, we'll all return safely. Chapter 663. Several days later, Mo Tiange, Qin Shi, Nie Wushang, and Lord Taoist Lingxi left Mount Taikong and went to Gujian sect. 4 nascent soul cultivators came to visit at the same time, which shocked the Gujian sect disciples so much that his eyes almost fell out. He hurriedly went to report, and Jing Xingji didn't delay, and immediately welcomed them in. Compared to Mount Taikong, Gujian sect's encampment was much steeper, and Jing Xingji's cave was even more so. This fellow chose a lone peak as his abode, and it was a direct path that was utterly impossible for anyone to live in. He lived alone at the peak of the mountain, and he only left 2 managing disciples to take care of it, causing him to seem cold, aloof, and have the bearing of an expert. Mo Tiange clicked her tongue in admiration. Living alone on a peak. Gujian sect is really generous. Jing Xingji pouted. That's where they're generous. He was referring to the peak at the back, which was the highest peak of Gujian sect. Compared to this lone peak, that peak was more imposing and had better scenery. Although it was Mo Tiange's first time here, she knew it was where Venerable Swordsman Yuanying's cave was. She smiled and said, Senior Yuanying is obviously training you as her successor. Won't it be yours in the future? Upon hearing that, Jing Xingji hurriedly waved his hand. Don't talk nonsense. I still have 2 senior martial brothers in my sect. He looked very humble. Mo Tiange and Nie Wushang rolled their eyes. Qin Shi couldn't help but smile. Fellow Taoist Jing, when did you become so cautious? I've always been cautious, okay? Jing Xingji also rolled his eyes. In fact, before he left Gujian sect, he had always been cautious in the sect. People from Venerable Swordsman Fuling's sect were always watching him. If he wasn't cautious, he would be caught. It was just that he had a cynical nature, so after leaving Gujian sect, he inevitably became a bit dissolute. When they entered the cave, Ling Yunhe and Yang Qingji were already waiting for them. They greeted each other and sat down. They hadn't seen each other for dozens of years, but both of them had advanced to the middle stage. Mo Tiange looked them up and down. Yang Qingji was as silent as ever and couldn't see anything. Ling Yunhe looked less gloomy, seeming to have been living well these years. Ling Yunhe looked at them and said with a smile, I really couldn't tell in the past, but not only do fellow Taoist Qin and Mo come from famous cultivation groups, fellow Taoist Jing is also extraordinary, and fellow Taoist Yang is the successor of the #1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole. What's wrong with you cultivators of the Celestial Pole? All of you ran to Yunzhong, making us Yunzhong cultivators feel ashamed? Mo Tiange shook the teacup in her hand. Fellow Taoist Ling, what are you talking about? Could it be that your Yunzhong doesn't have any talented cultivators? Even the 2 of you are not older than us when you formed your nascent soul. Among the 7 people present, Qin Shi, Jing Xingji and Lord Taoist Lingxi were slightly older. Ling Yunhe and Nie Wushang were in the middle, and Yang Qingji and Mo Tiange were the youngest. 4 nascent soul cultivators, being over 100 years old wasn't even worth mentioning. Among them Qin Shi, who advanced to the nascent soul realm the earliest, was only 100 years old. Now just like them, he was in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. What are you talking about? You're the youngest among us to form our nascent soul. Are you trying to provoke us? Ling Yan said half-jokingly. Mo Tiange smiled and waved her hand to beg for mercy. Okay, I said something wrong, okay? After chatting for a while, Jing Xingji got to the point. Fellow Taoists, it wasn't convenient to communicate before, so I didn't tell you about the Qilin sacrificial temple in detail. Now that everyone is here, I'll tell you about the location and situation of the sacrificial temple. He took out several jade slips, 1 for each person, and gave them to them. This is a map. We'll have a long way to go, and there'll be many dangers. If we get separated, we'll go there by ourselves. We won't waste our time waiting for anyone, so we have to be careful. No one had any objections. They all knew the current situation of Xiaoyang. Yunzhong moved northward, Shaoyang was surrounded by a vast sea, and the north was connected to the former South Sea of the Celestial Pole, which was extremely dangerous. Jing Xingji found out that the Qilin sacrificial temple was in Shaoyang, but the location was a bit off. As for where it was, they had to search carefully. If it went missing on the sea, how could other people find it? Lord Taoist Lingxi probed with her divine sense, and found a clear map drawn in the jade slip. Several points were marked on it, and they were the places where Gujian sect disciples found the Qilin's breath. The experiences and deductions of many disciples were recorded densely on the side, and it was extremely detailed. His heart stirred slightly, and he sent a voice transmission to Qin Shi. Senior Marshal Brother Shoujing, this map is too detailed. Who exactly is this fellow Taoist Jing? When going on a joint expedition, the person in charge would usually keep some important information, but the level of detail on this map was far beyond what they could tell their companions. It seemed to be all the information Gujian sect disciples found. Qin Shi smiled and said, "Rest assured, this information is all true." Lord Taoist Lingxi didn't ask any more questions, but he had a different attitude towards Jing Xingji. It seemed that this venerable swordsman Jing of Still Water and senior martial brother Shoujing trusted each other to an unusual degree. As you can see, we can only confirm that the Qilin is at the bottom of Shaoyang Sea, but the location is a bit off. That sea area is unimaginably dangerous. Core formation disciples can't explore it, so we can only do it ourselves. Ling Yunhe cupped his hands and thanked him sincerely. Fellow Taoist Jing, this information has saved us a lot of effort. It's all thanks to you that we can find out the location of the Qilin sacrificial temple. Jing Xingji waved his hand. Don't mention it. I've always reaped the fruits of others' labor. Now that I have the ability, I should do my best. Okay, I've said what I wanted to say. Do you have anything else to add? No one spoke. Qin Shi said, I have one thing to ask. He pointed at Lord Taoist Lingxi next to him. My junior martial brother will also go to Shaoyang. Does anyone have any objections? Although he said everyone, he was actually asking about Yang Qingji and Ling Yunhe. They brought Lord Taoist Lingxi here, and Jing Xingji didn't hide anything. So how could the two of them not know? Now that Qin Shi told him frankly, Ling Yunhe said, We're not going to fight for treasures. If fellow Taoist Lingxi is willing to go with us, I'm more than happy to. Yang Qingji only said 3 simple words, I have no objections. Qin Shi smiled and said, Similarly, if you have someone to go with you, you can come with us. They looked at each other. Jing Xingji was the first to shake his head. Gujian sect isn't like Xianqing school. My martial uncle Yuanying has to oversee the sect, and one of the 2 remaining senior martial brothers has to go to Kuanzhong City. We don't have enough manpower. Then he looked at Ling Yunhe. Ling Yunhe smiled bitterly. Although I've regained martial uncle Yuanmu's favor, he still doesn't believe this matter. Besides, Yunzhong has been in chaos these years, and Zhuoyan sect is short of manpower. I was able to leave because martial uncle Yuanmu gave me special authority. As for Yang Qingji, he didn't need to say anything. Does this guy have other friends? Then it's settled. As the host, Jing Xingji made the decision. If there's nothing else, we'll leave tomorrow. No one had any objections. They were already prepared to meet here. The next day, before leaving, Jing Xingji went to bid farewell to venerable swordsman Yuanying, and Mo Tiange and the others also greeted him. Venerable swordsman Yuanying didn't say much. It was impossible for Jing Xingji to hide this from him. He already said what he should say and do, so he just said a few words and told the disciples to send them off. After leaving Gujian sect, Ling Yunhe sighed. In the past, the cultivators of Yunzhong always thought Yunzhong was ranked first. The outer seas, whether it was Yuanzhou, Shaoyang, or the celestial pole across the ocean, they couldn't compare to Yunzhong. Now that I think about it, they were really ignorant and arrogant. The celestial pole has geniuses like you, and a senior like venerable swordsman Yuanying. Even if they don't have enough people, they're not worse than Yunzhong. Mo Tiange joked. Fellow Taoist Ling, when you went to Xianqing school, why didn't you sigh like this? Is Xianqing school not as good as Gujian sect? Ling Yunhe shook his head with a smile. No, Xianqing school is indeed powerful, and only lacks in number of nascent soul cultivators, compared to Juyin sect. However, Xianqing school's cultivators have never exceeded what I've seen. As for Gujin sect, fellow Taoist Jing Sr. is completely different from the cultivators of Yunzhong. Oh, Jing Xingji was curious. May I know what's different about martial uncle Yuanying? Ling Yunha said. Although Yunzhong doesn't have a powerful sword cultivation group like Gujin sect, it also has a lot of sword cultivators. The cultivation path of sword cultivators is nothing more than one sword to break 10,000 laws. And once the sword is drawn, there's no turning back. This senior Yuanying is different. He has the spirit of a sword cultivator, but he also has the breadth of mind of a Dao cultivator. In the current cultivation world, sword cultivators only remember to cultivate the sword. But how many people remember that the reason why sword cultivators are different from martial cultivators is because sword cultivators have Taoism as their foundation? Even fellow Taoist Jing, aside from tempering your mental state, you don't attach too much importance to your Tao foundation, right? At first he was just curious, but as he listened, Jing Xingji's expression became serious. This was an evaluation of sword cultivators he'd never heard before. To put it bluntly, sword cultivators nowadays are too obsessed with power, so they've become a side path. As for this senior Yuanying, he's crazy about swords, but he's more tolerant. This is something that all the sword cultivators in the world, including fellow Taoist Jing, can't compare to. Yes, Jing Xingji couldn't help but say. Everyone in the celestial pole knows that martial uncle Yuanying is upright and never biased. Even when I wasn't willing to return to Gujin sect, he could still casually give me a huge fated chance. This kind of breadth of mind is indeed unparalleled. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. Fellow Taoist Jing, you don't have to believe everything, Ling Yunha added. At this moment, Jing Xingji was overwhelmed with emotions. How could he really not believe it? Ling Yunha's words seemed to have opened a new door for him, letting him know that there was another way to walk the path of a sword cultivator. And this example was right beside him. Aside from Jing Xingji thinking hard along the way, the group of 7 of them flew to the small town, where the long-distance transporting formation was located, and used it to go to Yunzhong. Then, Ling Yunha showed up and teleported from Nanzhou to a small island in the boundless sea. Back then, when the continents changed their positions, the transporting formation between Yunzhong and Shaoyang couldn't be used anymore. There was also the South Sea of the Celestial Pole in between, so it was extremely dangerous. Later on, a nascent soul cultivator bypassed the South Sea of the Celestial Pole from the east and spent several years to find a relatively safe small island near Shaoyang. He re-established the transporting formation there, and only then was he able to get in touch with Shaoyang. Furthermore, he even used this opportunity to restore contact with Yuanzhou. Nie Wushang had walked this path before. Once they arrived at the island, she said, "I'll lead the way." Chapter 664. To prevent the cultivators of Shaoyang City from plundering, a nascent soul cultivator was stationed on this island. He also set up a transporting formation to Yuan Province to facilitate trading with Yuan Province. Originally, it would be safer to go to Shaoyang via Yuan Province. But according to the nascent soul cultivator stationed there, Yuan Province was currently in a fierce battle with the demon cultivators continent. Demon cultivators had completely occupied Yuan Province, so going to Yuan Province wasn't a good choice. The nascent soul cultivator stationed on the island was an early-stage cultivator with a lifespan of more than 1,000 years. He probably had no hope of advancing and didn't want to be involved in disputes, so he left Yunzhong and lived here. He was familiar with Ling Yunha, seeing that most of them were in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm and were in their prime. He was very envious. He also received spiritual plants from Mo Tiange, so he told them about the nearby situation and gave them a detailed sea map. With this detailed sea map in Nie Wushang, who was familiar with the route, the 7 of them set out directly to Shaoyang City by sea. Along the way, sea beasts were everywhere. Most of them were in the 6th or 7th rank, and there were also some in the 8th or 9th rank, but they just stayed far away when they saw them. Mo Tienga looked at the numerous sea beasts under her feet, and couldn't help but say, "If we build a beast-hunting island here, it might not be inferior to One-Leaf Island." Fellow Taoist Mo is right. Ling Yunhe nodded in agreement. However, building an island here is too difficult, and can't be completed in a short time. One-Leaf Island had to operate for more than 100,000 years to reach its current scale. Moreover, it had to be backed by the continent to have something to rely on. If there's only one island floating in the sea, it'll probably be destroyed in one go if it's surrounded by the demon cultivators. Mo Tienga was stunned. Fellow Taoist Ling, you're really thoughtful. I took it for granted. Ling Yunhe smiled. Fellow Taoist Mo doesn't know, but the cultivators in Yunzhong have long considered this matter. It's just that time was too tight, and the situation changed greatly, so it was delayed until now. It's not because of my unique vision. After flying smoothly for several days, Nie Wushang was getting closer and closer to Shaoyang. Many islands already had traces of cultivators' activities. All of a sudden, she stopped on a deserted island. Fellow Taoist Nye, is there a problem? Qin Shi asked. Nie Wushang shook her head and said, there are so many nascent soul cultivators in our group. If we enter the range of Shaoyang's 3 islands, it'll inevitably cause a commotion. Moreover, the Qilin's aura appears at the periphery of Owl Sun, so it's best to stop here. Mo Tienga took out the map and compared it with the map. Their current location was very close to one of the points, so she said, what Wushang said is reasonable. We don't need to go any further. Since they said so, the others didn't have any objections. They all took out the maps to study. The disciples of Gujian sect always found 3 points. Each of these 3 points was a sea area, and they were quite far away from each other. Their range was also quite large, and they surrounded the north of Fierce Sun in a ring shape. My disciples reported that there are often 8th-grade demonic cultivators in these 3 areas, so they couldn't investigate carefully. However, they're almost certain that they're in the vicinity of these 3 areas. Jing Xingji said, from what I can see, these 3 areas are quite large, and it will take a lot of effort to search. Why don't we split into 3 groups? It was indeed too wasteful for 7 nascent soul cultivators to search one area. Moreover, this place wasn't far from Fierce Sun Island, and there were only occasional 8th-ranked demonic cultivators. Each of them was an outstanding cultivator, so why would they be afraid of this place? Everyone immediately agreed, and began to discuss how to divide the spoils. Ling Yunhe was the first to speak. We'll split into 3 groups. We have 7 people. The strong ones will form a team of 2, and the weak ones will form a team of 3. Lord Taoist Lingxi took the initiative to step forward. Fellow Taoists are in the middle stage, but I'm still in the early stage, so I won't stand on ceremony. Next was Nie Wushang. I've just recovered from my serious injuries, so I won't force myself. Apart from them, the other 5 people didn't say anything. Mo Tienga had advanced to the middle stage more than 50 years ago, so her realm was stable, and she had just refined a peerless magic weapon. Jing Xingji had Wanderer Ziwei's inheritance and the White Tiger's Pearl, so he was a bit stronger than Mo Tienga. Ling Yunhe had the Black Tortoise's inheritance and the Soul Restraining Pearl. Yang Qingji had the Heavenly Devil Tower, the most powerful of the 5 holy objects in Yunzhong. It really wasn't easy to tell which one of them was the weakest. Qin Shi thought for a while then said, Tienga, you're the one fellow Taoist Nye trusts the most. Why don't you go with junior martial brother Lingxi and fellow Taoist Nye? Mo Tienga nodded in agreement. Apart from the 2 of them, Lord Taoist Lingxi wasn't familiar with the others. If Qin Shi went with them, he wasn't familiar with Nie Wushang, so she was the best candidate. Qin Shi turned to the other 3 people and asked with a smile, which fellow Taoist wants to go with me? Under normal circumstances, it would naturally be Jing Xingji, since the 2 of them were old partners. However, for the sake of average strength, he still asked. Before Jing Xingji could speak, Ling Yunhe smiled and said, I'd like to go with fellow Taoist. Qin Shi wasn't surprised and nodded. If there's no problem, then let's do it. Jing Xingji and Yang Qingji looked at each other and raised their eyebrows. It doesn't matter. After dividing into groups, the three groups each chose their own targets. Mo Tianga's group was naturally taken care of and was assigned to the closest one. Senior Marshal Brother, wait. Before she left, Mo Tianga called out to Little Feng from her spiritual beast bracelet. Little Feng will go with you, okay? Qin Shi nodded and said softly. Junior Marshal Brother Lingxi's cultivation level is a bit weak, and fellow Taoist Nia has just recovered from her serious injuries. Your spiritual beasts are 8th rank, so it'll be safer if they go with you. Alright, I understand. After saying a few simple words, they called each other and flew away. Tianga. Nia Wushang called out while flying. What's wrong? Mo Tianga asked when she saw the doubt on her face. There's something I've been thinking about for several days. She frowned and said, the way Jing Xingji found the Qilin sacrificial temple was based on the location of the other 4 sacrificial temples. And this location was after the world changed. Why is it like this? Haven't these sacrificial temples been established for 1,000,000 years? Was today's world destined to become like this 1,000,000 years ago? We've thought about this, Mo Tianga said slowly. The reason why the world changed is related to our experiences in the Sea of Returning Ruins. You know this. Nia Wushang nodded. Mo Tianga went on to say, what did we trigger in the Sea of Returning Ruins to cause the world to change? The opening of the Immortal Palace in the Sea of Returning Ruins was full of all kinds of coincidences. As long as one condition wasn't met, it was very likely that it would never appear in the world again. To be honest, I don't think this result was foreseeable, so I think the world becoming like this today was just an accident. Moreover, how could the people or the gods from millions of years ago build a temple according to the result of the world becoming like this one day? Nia Wushang thought for a while and said, you mean this world might have been like this from the beginning? Mo Tianga nodded gently. We speculate that this world was originally like this, but for some reason, it changed into its previous state. For example, several destructive catastrophes. Nia Wushang thought silently for a long time and said softly, it's said that everything in the world has karma. The world has changed back to its original state, and we only hope it's peaceful in the distant past era. Mo Tianga didn't say anything. She also hoped that would be the case. She hoped they could smoothly find the Qilin sacrificial temple, find the truth of the big secret that Amber called, find the true face of that gambling house, and obtain the chips to win. Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei, this is the place, right? Lord Taoist Lingxi's voice came into her ears. Mo Tianga turned around and compared it with the map. It should be. This place was a relatively calm sea area, not far from the 3 islands of Shaoyang, so there weren't many sea beasts. Just now, they sensed an 8th-rank beast cultivator nearby, but when it discovered them, it also fled far away. Speaking of which, cultivators of Shaoyang were really strange existences. Whether it was Yunzhong, the Celestial Pole, or Yuan Province, if cultivators from the 3 continents lived in a place like Shaoyang, they would definitely do their best to catch beasts for their cultivation. But cultivators of Shaoyang didn't. They seemed to be accustomed to plundering for a living, and they would rather go to Yuan Province to rob than to catch beasts in the sea. As a result, the environment around the 3 islands of Shaoyang was still the same as before, and the number of sea beasts didn't decrease at all. Mo Tianga pressed her spiritual beast bracelet, releasing her 3 spiritual beasts in stone, who was inseparable from Feifei. This wasn't her first time seeing this, but Nia Wushang still felt it was very spectacular. She clicked her tongue and praised. Look at your posture. You're already very impressive even without fighting. Even cultivators of spiritual beast sect don't have so many 8th-rank spiritual beasts, right? The cultivation technique, cultivated by cultivators of spiritual beast sect, was very special. Their natal spiritual beasts were always at the same cultivation level as their cultivators. When their cultivation level reached a high level, they could fight 2 against 1, which was quite advantageous. However, there was only one natal spiritual beast, and it was also very difficult to raise other spiritual beasts to the 8th rank or above. Even Hua Lingyun, the head of spiritual beast sect, only had 2 spiritual beasts above the 8th rank. While the sea, Xiaofan was the first to call out. Soon after, it looked at Emotienga with a longing gaze. Master, can I go down? Emotienga said. Yes, I want you to go down. There's a Qilin's breath leaking out of this sea area. Go down and look for it. Xiaofan didn't say a word of nonsense. It suddenly revealed its true form, turned into a blue sea dragon, and jumped into the water. You guys too, Emotinga said to the other 2 spiritual beasts. Feifei curled its lips and didn't bother to ask anything. It just patted Stone's head and said, Stone, let's go. Xiahua was a bit scared. Master, let me do something else. Can I not go down? She was a fire attribute spiritual beast, so she had a natural fear of the sea. Okay. Emotinga pointed at her feet. You stay here to support Xiaofan and Feifei. Okay. Xiahua agreed without having to go down to the sea. After arranging several spiritual beasts, Emotinga turned around and called out. Senior Martial Brother Lingxi, should we go down and look for them? Okay. Lord Taoist Lingxi stretched out his finger and flicked it. A verdant lotus leaf appeared in front of him. It immediately turned into a green aura and wrapped his whole body. I'll go first. Junior Martial Sister and fellow Taoist Nye, be careful. After he finished speaking, he dove into the sea. Wushang, let's go too. The 2 of them used their respective methods and dove into the sea. Chapter 665. He sank about 1,000 feet into the sea, and indeed, he could feel the weak aura of a Qilin. Emotinga stopped, closed her eyes, and put her palms together, silently operating her cultivation technique. Spiritual energy flowed out of his dantian, followed by the Qilin's breath. When the Qilin's breath filled his entire body, the aura of his kind around him became clearer. Emotinga opened her eyes and swam slowly along with the Qilin's breath. The Qilin's aura here was very strange. It was thin and indistinct, almost impossible to find. Even if she had the Qilin's aura, she couldn't sense where it came from. How could this be? Now that the Qilin's breath in her pursuit had stopped, Emotinga stopped, and once again stimulated the Qilin's breath inside her body. But this time, it didn't last long before it disappeared. After thinking for a while, he still couldn't come up with a solution, so he decided to give up for the time being and swam upstream. Crash! Emotinga's head popped out of the water. With a flick of her sleeve, she shook off some water droplets, only to discover that Nye Wushang had already come up and was sitting cross-legged on the surface of the sea. You're up here too? She raised her eyebrows. This is strange. I need to think about it. Nye Wushang also didn't disturb her. The 2 of them just sat cross-legged, facing each other in silence. After a while, there was another splash and Dao Lord Lingxi's head popped out of the water. The 2 of you came this morning? Dao Lord Lingxi flung the water droplets away and sat cross-legged a little further away. I found the Qilin's aura, but it's just too odd. I can't touch it or grab it. You're right, Senior Brother Lingxi. I also have Qilin's breath in my body, but I can't sense it. Could it be that this Qilin's breath is only here, and the Qilin sacrificial temple isn't here? If it's not here, then where? Nye Wushang said. The azure dragon from the east, the vermilion bird from the south, the white tiger from the west, and the black tortoise from the north. All of them are in their respective positions, so Qilin should be in the center. Moreover, if the Qilin temple isn't here, then how do you explain the Qilin's aura here? Yes. Why did it turn out like this? Emotinga muttered to herself. Perhaps, it's because the entrance to the Qilin sacrificial temple has been concealed? Dao Lord Lingxi suddenly said. Emotinga and Nye Wushang looked up at the same time. What's wrong? Seeing their expressions, Dao Lord Lingxi thought that she had said something wrong. No. Emotinga smiled. Senior Martial Brother Lingxi is absolutely right. We can't find it because it's covered up. This Qilin aura was leaked out earlier. If that's the case, are we still going to keep looking? Nye Wushang asked. Let's contact them first. Emotinga took some time to think, then said. Let's see how they're doing, and whether they're also in the same situation. Just as he took out the voice-transmitting talisman, Lil Fan popped its head out and shouted, "Master, there are sea beasts, a lot of sea beasts." "What?" The three of them were stunned. Yifan quickly swam over, followed by Xiaohua and Feifei. He said, "The flow of the sea isn't right, there are many sea beasts coming this way." "A lot?" Emotinga was confused. She asked, "Where did they come from? What are you doing here?" "South from the south." Yifan nudged her anxiously. "Let's go to the shore. There are thousands, no, tens of thousands of them." 10,000 sea beasts? Emotinga's face was a bit pale. If tens of thousands of sea beasts swarmed her, even if there weren't any 8th-ranked demonic beast cultivators, it would still be hard for her to deal with them. Besides, this was simply impossible since there were 8th-ranked demonic beasts in the vicinity. "Let's go," Feifei shouted from behind. Maybe they're sea beasts that came out to look for food. Or maybe the demonic beasts on the demonic cultivator continent were driven away by demonic beasts. "We can't stay in the water." "Let's go." Lord Taoist Lingxi immediately stood up. "Let's hide on the shore and find a chance to meet up." Emotinga didn't hesitate. She activated the sound-transmitting talisman, then quickly summoned several spirit beasts, put them into the spiritual beast bracelet, and shot towards the nearest island. The other two teams obviously found out earlier than her. When she sent out the sound-transmitting talisman, they received Qin Shi's and Jing Xingji's voice messages one after another. Their messages were concise and comprehensive, expressing the same meaning. "There are many sea beasts in the south. Hide quickly." When they set foot on the island, their divine senses had already found traces of many sea beasts. The three of them didn't say anything and found a cave. Emotinga quickly took out a formation and laid it, concealing her breath and hiding inside. These sea beasts were getting closer and closer, and the buzzing sound lingered in their ears. Emotinga silently calculated with her divine sense. Xiaofan was right. There were at least tens of thousands of them. The lowest ones were in the 3rd or 4th rank, while the higher ones were in the 8th rank, 9th rank, and 10th rank. Where did they come from? Did they gather together to hunt for food? That shouldn't be possible, right? Or maybe they came from the demon cultivator continent. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were trampling over their heads. The ground was shaking and the waves were rolling. The three of them were not low-level cultivators with shallow experience, but this kind of movement still caused their faces to turn pale. The sea beasts rushed past them like a tide, and didn't seem to pay much attention to them. The three of them relaxed a little, but in the next moment, an 8th-rank beast cultivator stopped above them, followed by 2 9th-rank beast cultivators. They held their breaths, feeling like a huge rock was hanging on their chests. Suddenly, they sensed that one of the beast cultivators made a move. The three of them didn't even have time to say anything, and quickly flashed out of the cave. Boom! With a loud noise, the cave they were hiding in was smashed to pieces. As soon as they came out of the cave, they saw a dense mass of flying sea beasts above them. Emotinga's heart sank. She pressed the spiritual beast bracelet and released all the spirit beasts. "We can't hide anymore. Let's get to work." "So many?" Xiaohua exclaimed in surprise, feeling very guilty. Ever since she was a child, she had very few opportunities to fight. Emotinga waved the heaven and earth fan, and a bolt of lightning smashed the 6th or 7th-ranked demonic beasts near her. She said in a deep voice, "There's nothing we can do even if there are so many of them. Since we can't hide, we can only fight our way out." She raised her head and looked at the more and more beast cultivators gathering not far away. Almost all of these beast cultivators were in their original forms, and their eyes were full of hostility. Emotinga quietly released the puppets. She winked at the other two people and quickly rushed forward. It was definitely not a good idea to let the beast cultivators have time to gather. The faster they rushed out of the encirclement, the better. As long as they met with the other two groups, their chances of survival would be greatly increased. Seeing them rushing over, these beast cultivators were even more disgusted, but some were excited. They slightly changed their formation and assumed a fighting posture. They were actually beast cultivators who knew how to fight in groups. Nie Wushang's devil cloud was the first to be ready. She still had the habit of being a martial cultivator. She threw a heavy punch, and the devil cloud quickly attacked the beast cultivators. At the same time, Lord Taoist Lingxi waved her hand. Countless green flashed in the air and spread into a big green net. This big net gathered and suddenly turned into a towering ancient tree with a desolate ancient aura and endless vitality. In the face of them taking the initiative to attack, the demonic cultivators were on high alert, and they resisted the attacks of the demonic cultivators. Mo Tiange saw a 10th-rank beast cultivator among them. He hadn't made a move yet, and just watched coldly from the side. The other beast cultivators were in their original forms, but he was in his human form. His dark and thin appearance looked very familiar. When she saw the pair of wings on his back, Mo Tiange shivered and cried out involuntarily, "It's you!" The dark and thin beast cultivator's eyes were fixed on her, and his eyes narrowed ruthlessly. "So it's you. I didn't expect to see you again after we parted that year." He spoke in an unfamiliar human language with a strange accent. Surprisingly, he was the black beast cultivator who escaped from the returning ruins sea with them. When the returning ruins sea collapsed, 3 beast cultivators, black, white and blue, escaped together. Mo Tiange and Yang Qingji triggered the nascent soul heavenly tribulation, but they triggered the transformation heavenly tribulation. After the heavenly tribulation, wind and rain intertwined, and the world changed. Yang Qingji escaped from the sea, and Mo Tiange, Qin Shi, and Jing Xingji went to Yuan province. The 3 beast cultivators were nowhere to be seen. It turned out they had become the leaders of the beast cultivators in the sea. Nie Wushang and Lord Taoist Lingxi looked at them in surprise. Nie Wushang said, "Tiange, how do you know this beast cultivator?" Mo Tiange waved her hand, indicating that they would talk later. She raised her voice and said, "So it's fellow Taoist Old Black. Fellow Taoist escaped after we parted in the returning ruins sea. Congratulations." The dark and thin beast cultivator laughed and said, "I have to thank you. If it weren't for you, we would have been trapped in the ice palace for the rest of our lives. How could we have left? How could we have the glory we have today? I wouldn't dare. It was just a coincidence." Mo Tiange paused for a moment, then raised her voice and asked, "Fellow Taoist Old Black, may I ask why you're doing this?" The dark and thin beast cultivator looked at her and said indifferently, "I'm afraid it's not convenient for you to know." His refusal was stiff and his eyes were ruthless, as if he wanted to attack her at any time. Mo Tiange didn't want to fight him right away. With so many beast cultivators, wouldn't she die of exhaustion? "You're right. It's useless for us to know about beast cultivators." The dark and thin beast cultivator narrowed his eyes. "This is the territory of beast cultivators. Why did you come here?" Mo Tiange paused for a moment, then said, "Fellow Taoist, you're wrong. The sea is the habitat of sea beasts like you, but there are also humans living on the island. How could it be the territory of beast cultivators?" "Humph," the dark and thin beast cultivator said in a bad tone. "Didn't you humans come to the sea to hunt beasts? You have a glib tongue, but you still can't change this fact." "Humph." Mo Tiange also snorted coldly. "Since when were you beast cultivators friendly to humans? Didn't you order low-level demonic beasts from time to time and use them, who haven't developed spiritual wisdom, to rob humans of their medicinal pills and magic weapons, to pave the way for you to take human form? You, beast cultivators, weren't good at bickering." Mo Tiange's words rendered the dark and thin beast cultivator speechless. He wanted to say he took human form in the immortal palace in the returning ruined sea, but if he said that, it would seem like he admitted what she said. Just as Mo Tiange was about to say something to ease the situation and coexist with the beast cultivator, an earth-shattering strike suddenly came from the distance. The other 4 people had already fought with the beast cultivator. Old Black turned his head to look and instantly became furious. He shouted, "Kill them!" Yes, the beast cultivators around him responded in unison. They rubbed their fists and were about to pounce on Old Black. Mo Tiange groaned inwardly, but she had no choice but to shout, "Go!" Chapter 666. 3 people, 3 spirit beasts, and a puppet could barely be regarded as 7 nascent soul cultivators. As for the stone, Emotienga had already ignored it. Although the stone couldn't be affected by spells, it hadn't taken a human form, and it might never take a human form, so it was impossible for it to hurt these beast cultivators. On the other hand, after Lao He gave the order to kill, he glanced coldly at them, and then he led the demon cultivators away without any reluctance to leave. The low-grade sea beasts that dashed past in the surroundings didn't intend to stay either, and they flew forward as if they were nothing. More than a dozen beast cultivators were left behind, confronting them with swords drawn. Nie Wuxiang was the first to attack. She combined the two from a martial cultivator to a devil cultivator, and her fighting style was direct and fierce. The color of the devil cloud around her became darker and darker, like a drop of ink, and she rushed toward the beast cultivators. Boom, boom, boom. Every punch carried the power to crack rocks and mountains, as well as a strange corrosive aura. The several beast cultivators who rushed in front were caught off guard and hit by her. They flew far away like kites with broken strings. Seeing this scene, the beast cultivators who didn't take them seriously became a little nervous. At the same time, 2 9th rank and 1 8th rank flew out, intending to surround Nie Wuxiang. Emotienga snorted and waved the heaven and earth fan. With a roar, an azure dragon appeared, spewing golden lightning, and pounced on one of the 9th rank beast cultivators, throwing him far away from Nie Wuxiang. The appearance of the azure dragon shocked the beast cultivator. Divine Sovereign? This is the breath of a divine sovereign. All the beast cultivators were panic-stricken. How could this human have the breath of a divine sovereign? Divine sovereigns had already disappeared in the human world. Could it be like what the Chilants in the Shimi Sea said, that the descendants of divine sovereigns had appeared? But what did this have to do with human cultivators? Or did her magic weapon come from killing divine sovereigns? Before they could figure it out, they suddenly saw the seawater around the small island boil and rushed to the other side. At this time, Yifan was in his human form. He was a young man with a calm face. His blue and gray clothes were fluttering in the fierce sea breeze. At first glance, he looked inconspicuous, but with a little attention, one would find that his whole body was filled with a kind of vast and sacred spiritual qi, which made his whole body as transparent as the purest water, clean and without any impurities. His eyes were tightly closed, and his palms were clasped together as he performed a hand seal. A ball of extremely pure, water-blue spiritual qi appeared between his fingers and gradually grew stronger. With the appearance of this ball of spiritual qi, the surrounding waves seemed to be controlled by a mysterious power. Even the water attribute demon cultivators among them could not absorb the water spiritual qi from it. When the spiritual qi had increased to a certain level, he opened his eyes and pointed a finger. A shadow that was the combination of a turtle and a snake suddenly appeared. It glanced coldly at the crowd of demon cultivators, and in an instant, a huge wave that was hundreds of feet high rose from the sea and slammed down on them. Crash! A huge force came crashing down, and most of the beast cultivators were so shocked that they forgot to move and were knocked to the ground. However, it had not been long since Xiaofan advanced, so the black tortoise shadow she summoned wasn't very powerful. Moreover, it was shared equally by the crowd of demon cultivators, so it only made them uncomfortable for a while. However, the appearance of the black tortoise shadow made these demon cultivators go crazy. Black tortoise divine sovereign. That's the black tortoise divine sovereign. A demon cultivator shouted. You're surprised just like that? Feifei snorted and revealed his true form. He was the first among the few spirit beasts to obtain a divine beast's aura. Moreover, what he obtained was a spirit beast's true form. He deliberately released it, and the white tiger's aura that surged all over his body was incomparably strong. Feifei was shrouded in golden light. In an instant, a white tiger shadow descended and overlapped with his true form. Ha! With a shout, the white tiger shadow became clearer and clearer, and the white tiger's aura also became stronger and stronger. Suddenly he flew forward, his 4 feet flat on the ground, and left a series of white tiger footprints in the air. With the white tiger shadow around him, Feifei was like a copper head with iron arms. He crashed into everything in his way without holding back. The demon cultivators with slightly lower cultivation were all sent flying by him. Although he was the last to advance to the 8th rank, his strength grew the fastest after he advanced to the 8th rank. At that moment, Xiaohua also revealed her true form. The vermilion bird's flames gushed out and burned. Compared to Xiaofan and Feifei, who obtained the divine beast's aura directly, Xiaohua was a bit weaker. This was because her vermilion bird's aura came from Xiaofeng, and she wasn't a descendant of the phoenix, so her bloodline evolution wasn't as thorough as Xiaofeng's. But she had her advantages. She lived the longest in the virtual sky world, ate the most spiritual plants, and had the strongest body. These demon cultivators were already numb. First it was Azure Dragon, then it was Black Tortoise, then White Tiger and Vermilion Bird. How could there be so many divine sovereigns' auras? Who were these people in the end? Should they fight back? Their instinctive reverence for divine sovereigns made them unable to fight back without any scruples. Right at that moment, the distant horizon suddenly lit up. The blue sky and white clouds contrasted with the flames, making them look particularly distinct. A phoenix cry came from afar. "Phoenix!" a demon cultivator cried out involuntarily as he watched the approaching firebird. All the demon cultivators' gazes turned in that direction. Xiaofeng. Mo Tiange watched as Xiaofeng leisurely flew closer and stared at these demon cultivators with a proud and indifferent gaze. Although she was only in the 8th rank, and among these demon cultivators, 9th-rank demon cultivators weren't rare. Under her gaze, the demon cultivators couldn't help but look at her in awe. After a moment of silence, a demon cultivator summoned his courage and asked, "May I ask if your Lord Divine Sovereign?" With flames dancing around her, Xiaofeng's entire body was filled with a noble and sacred aura. She answered faintly, "I'm a descendant of a divine sovereign." Divine sovereign? It's really a divine sovereign. The demon cultivators instantly became restless. "Calm down. Calm down." Some demon cultivators shouted, "There are descendants of divine sovereigns in this world. What's so strange about that? If they're really divine sovereigns, why would they be with humans and become enemies with us demon cultivators? Divine sovereigns are ours, not humans." Upon hearing this, the commotion among the demon cultivators quickly subsided, and they began to whisper to each other. "But this kind of aura, why isn't it a divine sovereign? We demon cultivators have a natural instinct. It's impossible for us to mistake a divine sovereign." "That's true, but what Big Brother Wu said makes sense. How could a divine sovereign ignore us and stand on the human side?" "That's right. In my opinion, these humans used some unknown method to steal the aura left behind by a divine sovereign. That's why, impossible. If there's really a divine sovereign aura left behind, why didn't we demon cultivators know about it and let the humans take advantage of it? They don't have 1 or 2 types of divine sovereign aura, but 4. What's the reason for such a coincidence? If it's not a coincidence, it means that they're scheming and harboring evil intentions. Could it be that they're from Shumisi? Shumisi's sovereign bloodline claims to be the descendants of divine sovereign Qilin. With them, doesn't that make all the 5 spiritual divine sovereigns? So that's how it is. This time, Shumisi instigated a war with the Sea clan because they have ulterior motives. Then what's with these divine sovereign auras? What's with this Lord Divine Sovereign? This can't be faked. The dozen or so demon cultivators couldn't keep calm anymore. As soon as Little Feng appeared, they started to quarrel among themselves. Lord Taoist Lingxi looked at them in surprise and whispered, "Junior Martial Sister Qingwei, look." "Since Little Feng came, it means Senior Martial Brother is safe," Mo Tiange replied. "It's best if these demon cultivators are in a mess without fighting. Fellow Taoist Lao He, their leader, isn't easy to deal with. Back then, he had 2 companions who came out of the Sea of Immortals with us. One of them had a cultivation level not lower than his. Since Lao He has advanced to the 10th rank, I'm afraid that person is also." Mo Tiange paused and continued. "It turns out they invaded south because they got into trouble with Shumisi. Now I have an idea." She turned her wrist, and a palm-sized glowing shell appeared in her hand. The shell seemed to have endless spiritual aura and some mysterious spells. Mo Tiange picked it up and blew it gently, A wonderful whining sound that seemed to come from the depths of the soul spread throughout the whole sea area. As soon as this sound was heard, the demon cultivators stopped arguing. After a long time, a demon cultivator shouted, "They really are from Shumi Sea." As soon as he said that, the demon cultivators, no longer afraid of little Feng, the descendant of a divine lord, swarmed over. Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei, Lord Taoist Lingxi, didn't know what to say about this change. "We'll have to fight sooner or later. Let's kill them first." After saying that, she used the great heavenly thunder spell, and a lightning net fell from the sky. In an instant, the island was in chaos as humans and demons fought fiercely. At the edge of the South Sea, tens of thousands of Sea Clan troops were ready for battle. The leader was Xian Miao, the third princess of the South Sea. She no longer looked like Jin Jing in the Six Dao Palace. She was a 17 or 18-year-old girl, wearing a blue palace dress, and a qilin horn on her forehead. She looked mysterious, noble and aloof. Not far from her were Xian Ri and Xian Yu, and behind her were Die and Enai Qi. Jing Hu, Jing Tao, and other 10th-ranked demon cultivators were further away, commanding the Sea Clan troops. Report. From afar, an 8th-ranked demon cultivator flew over and knelt on one knee in front of Xian Miao. "Third princess, the returning Ruin Sea's army is 1 day away." Xian Miao narrowed her eyes and asked in a deep voice, "How many are above 8th rank?" "Third princess, according to the scouts, there are 9 10th rank, more than 29th rank, and about 50 to 68th rank." Hearing this number, Die behind Xian Miao said softly, "More than half of the returning Ruin Sea's high-level demon cultivators are here. It seems they're determined to teach us a lesson this time." Xian Miao laughed mockingly. "They want to teach us a lesson this way? The returning Ruin Sea is looking down on us too much. We don't have fewer high-level demon cultivators than them, but they're still waiting for us to exhaust ourselves. They're really not smart enough." Of course, Die's expression was cold, but her words were respectful. "They're just ordinary demon cultivators. How can they compare to the noble bloodline of the sovereign? Besides, third princess is a real divine lord now." Xian Miao was smiling, but her smile suddenly froze and she took out a shell from her bosom. This shell glowed and was surrounded by spirit energy. At this moment, it vibrated inexplicably and gave off a humming sound. Report. Another 8th-ranked demon cultivator flew over and knelt in front of Xian Miao. "Third princess, a group of humans has stalled about half of the demon cultivators. They have the aura of the other 4 spirits. The returning Ruin Sea's army has stopped ahead." "It's them?" Third princess pondered for a moment and raised her hand. "Send my order. The army is to move out and attack the enemy." Chapter 667. A towering ancient tree appeared in midair as if it was real. Lord Taoist Lingxi stepped out of it, his eyes emotionless. He stretched out his hand and waved it gently. An ancient tree suddenly fell down, blocking a beast cultivator's giant waves technique. There were more and more beast cultivators around them. At first, the sea beast army only sent these beast cultivators to stop them, and the sea beasts went forward as usual. Later, because they couldn't kill them and were stalled by them, many beast cultivators turned back, wanting to kill them all. Their side was in a good situation. There weren't many reinforcements. On Qin Shi and Jing Xingji's side, many beast cultivators rushed towards them. Mo Tiange was a little anxious and regretted taking out the token of Shumi Si just now. How could these beast cultivators recognize the token of the sovereign of Shumi Si? When she found out these beast cultivators had discord with Shumi Si, she wanted to use the token the third princess gave her to call for help. But she didn't expect these beast cultivators to be so familiar with Shumi Si that they even recognized this kind of token. In other words, Shumi Si and returning Ruin Si had been fighting for a long time? The nascent soul cultivator guarding the island only said the sea wasn't calm, and there were beast cultivators coming and going from time to time. But he didn't know the relationship between the 2 seas had reached this point. Junior Marshal Sister Qingwei. Lord Taoist Lingxi's voice rang in her ears. Let's meet up with Senior Marshal Brother Shojing as soon as possible. Hearing this, Emotinga immediately calmed down. Fluctuating emotions had no effect on breaking out of the encirclement. Besides, what was the use of temporarily delaying them? Qinshi, Jingxingji, and the others had already started fighting. If the beast cultivators saw them, they wouldn't let them go. You guys go in front, I'll cover. Although they had a lot of people, their strength wasn't equal. The 4 spirit beasts were all in the 8th rank. They cultivated slowly, so their strength didn't grow fast. Lord Taoist Lingxi's strength wasn't bad, but he was still in the early stage. Madam, don't worry, Xiaofeng said. Master can still hold on for the time being. I understand. Let's go, don't delay. She turned her gaze. Wushang, you and Senior Marshal Brother Lingxi go in front. Nie Wushang didn't say anything. She nodded and punched the 8th rank beast cultivator in front, tearing their formation apart. Dao Lord Lingxi followed closely behind. He had a gentle personality and cultivated a wood attribute cultivation technique. However, his combat style was straightforward and even a little violent. Even if a level 9 demonic cultivator stood in front of him, he would still attack with all his might, even at the risk of both sides being injured. These beast cultivators didn't dare to fight with all because they were frightened at first, and didn't dare to fight with all they had. Seeing them trying to escape, the beast cultivators stirred and formed a formation they didn't dare to fight with. Liamo and an eye and they saw. They and. Bye dares they as they. They and they and. However, the box suddenly stopped halfway and opened. The few demon cultivators were startled. Instinctively, they struck first to gain the upper hand, striking at the box. Unexpectedly, when the box was opened, it was empty. There was only a mysterious aura that seemed to contain all things. No matter what it was, it could be thrown into the box, but it also seemed to be able to destroy all things. Anything that came into contact with it would disappear. With a chi sound, the black longsword and the spikes on the box seemed to have hit something. They melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ah! The beast cultivators controlling the 2 magic weapons screamed, as if they were seriously injured. What's this? 2 natal magic weapons were melted and destroyed in just one encounter. It was too terrifying. Natal magic weapons were connected to their masters' minds. If the magic weapons were destroyed, their masters would be injured. Not only would they die on the spot, but their cultivation levels would also drop. For a moment, the beast cultivators were afraid to run away. If their magic weapons were only injured, they could slowly recover. But why did they melt directly? Could they refine them again? Or could they not be saved? As soon as the chaotic heavenly box appeared, it stunned them. Emotinga took the opportunity to shout, "Go!" Without hesitation, Nie Wushang turned into an escape light and flew away, followed by Lord Taoist Lingxi and the 4 spirit beasts. When they all got out of the encirclement, Emotinga also fled. Fearing the chaotic heavenly box, the beast cultivators didn't dare to stop her, and just surrounded her from a distance. Right at that moment, a white escape light flew over. The white escape light was extremely fast. In a flash, it arrived in front of her. Emotinga's speed was hindered by many beast cultivators, so she was soon blocked. When the escape light dissipated, a woman in white stood in the air and looked at Emotinga calmly. "Fellow Taoist, how have you been?" Emotinga was stunned. "You are? What? Don't you recognize me?" The woman in white smiled. Compared to the beast cultivators around her, her transformation was very perfect. Not only did she not look like a beast, but she was also dignified and elegant, surpassing many human women. "You're right. When we first met, I hadn't experienced heavenly tribulation, so I didn't know how to transform, so it was inevitable that I was a bit ugly." She smiled, making people feel like they were bathing in a spring breeze, but her hands were faintly flashing with lightning. A figure emerged in Emotinga's mind, and she said slowly, "You're fellow Taoist old Bai?" The woman in white nodded with a smile. "I'm Bailing. How should I address you?" "My surname is Mo, and my Taoist name is Qingwei." Emotinga wasn't in the mood to chat with her, so she went straight to the point. Fellow Taoist Bai, why are you blocking my way? Do you have to ask fellow Taoist Mo? Bailing's gaze swept over the chaotic heavenly box floating in front of her, and fear flashed in her eyes. As a human, what are you doing in my sea race's territory? Upon hearing this, Mo Tinga couldn't help but smile mockingly. Fellow Taoist Bai's words are strange. The sea race lives in the sea, but the islands in the sea are inhabited by humans. Since ancient times, humans have lived on the islands. When did the sea race become your sea race's territory? Besides, I haven't seen you beast cultivators leave the continent, so why can't you let humans set foot on the sea? Bailing frowned, but in the next moment, the great 10th rank beast's momentum suddenly pressed down. So you're saying you don't want to leave? Mo Tinga said faintly. We have no intention of getting involved in the sea race's dispute. We came here for an important matter, and once we're done we'll leave. But if you force us to leave, it won't be easy. Who knew whether all the clues here would be erased after the battle between the returning ruins sea and the Shumi Sea? It wasn't easy for them to find this place, so they definitely wouldn't give it up easily. If they really had to face hundreds of beast cultivators in the returning ruins sea, they might temporarily leave because they weren't strong enough. However, the information revealed by these beast cultivators was enough to prove that they were fighting with the Shumi Sea. If she could borrow the Shumi Sea's power, she wouldn't be polite. Besides, would these beast cultivators really let them go? Probably not. If they took advantage of their absence and attacked them from behind, wouldn't they be in a passive position? Do something. A trace of ruthlessness flashed across Bailing's face, and she asked in a deep voice, Is it to steal the Divine Lord's breath? Mo Tinga was stunned, but her face remained calm. Fellow Taoist Bailing, why do you say that? Bailing snorted. Your Excellency, why do you think we have endless disputes with the Shumi Sea? It's because they claim to be the descendants of Divine Lord Qilin and want to steal the Divine Lord's breath in our sea area. Mo Tinga was shocked. It turned out the beast cultivators had long noticed the Qilin's breath here. Thinking about it carefully, she found it was right. The Qilin's breath was scattered in the sea, so how could the sea beasts not know about it? In this case, if they wanted to enter the Qilin sacrificial temple, wouldn't they have to fight with the beast cultivators in the returning ruins sea and the Shumi Sea? In the Six Paths Palace, Hupo once told the 3 mystical Qilins to help them find that secret if they needed it in the future. The Qilin sacrificial temple was related to this matter, and they didn't want to fight for the Qilin's breath, so they probably wouldn't turn against them. When the time came, they could just cooperate with them. With this thought, Mo Tinga made up her mind and said calmly, Fellow Taoist Bailing, I don't want to meddle in the affairs of your sea clans. However, after hearing what you said, I inevitably have a question. Can you answer it? Bailing raised her eyebrows. Fellow Taoist, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm afraid you won't have a chance in a while. Mo Tinga cupped her hands, then asked in a rather humble tone. I remember that several dozen years ago, this place wasn't the sea region but Yunzhong. The south of Yunzhong was the Sea of Returning Ruins, and the north of Yunzhong was the Shumi Sea. Yunzhong is no longer here now, but this place can't be considered the Shumi Sea or the Returning Ruins Sea, right? Bailing narrowed its eyes and said fiercely, Fellow Taoist, do you think the Divine Lord's breath in this place belongs to you humans? I don't dare. Mo Tinga suddenly put her palms together, and a divine, mighty breath burst out from her body. The expressions of Bailing and the beast cultivators around them suddenly changed. This is Divine Lord Qilin. Mo Tinga smiled and put down her hands. Lord Taoist Bailing, to be honest, my breath is a gift from a senior Divine Lord. For us humans, the Divine Lord's breath is indeed very powerful, but it can't change our physiques and evolve into a higher bloodline like you can. For me, the Qilin's breath is enough. I'm not interested in what you guys are fighting over. Hearing what she said, Bailing didn't say anything for a long time. This group of people was indeed difficult to deal with. They originally planned to kill them in one go, but they didn't expect that they still couldn't kill them until now. Instead, most of the 8th rank beast cultivators were stalled, which would be fatal for their upcoming decisive battle. Therefore, the army stopped and planned to kill these humans in one go. But if that was the case, it seemed that they didn't have a reason to be enemies. Don't believe her. Many beast cultivators stared at Emotiengo with hostility. One of them shouted, "Humans are the most cunning. Besides, she just disabled Changba and Old Shrimp. We can't let her go." As soon as the beast cultivator finished speaking, someone immediately echoed, "Yes, we can't let her go. Her magic weapon is so terrifying. What if we sneak attack from behind?" The crowd was so angry that Bailing didn't know what to say for a while. She sighed and spread her hands. Lightning formed a ball with flowing light and a mysterious breath. "Sorry, we can't trust humans." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.